here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. I'm still here, no fear, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here.
Stretch words like T-4 minutes.
Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. They talk loud, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. I'm still here, no fear, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here.
Stretch words like T-3 minutes.
Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. They talk loud, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. I'm still here, no fear, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here.
Stretch words like T-2 minutes.
Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. They talk loud, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. I'm still here, no fear, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here.
Stretch words like T-1 minute.
Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. They talk loud, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear.
T-40 seconds.
I'm still here, no fear, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real
T-30
talk
seconds.
lives right here.
Stretch words like
T-20
seconds.
Spilling tea,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
sugar, no fear. They talk loud, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear.
Y'all, let's get into it. Welcome everybody to the chat. If you guys are new here, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I was just jamming. I like that song. Okay, so y'all, let's get into it. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you all like the video. Make sure you guys share the video. As you know, when you share the video, when you like the video, it does help the video to get its way or make its way through the YouTube algorithm. Now, I am live streaming on both my channels here. I got about 466 people in the chat, and I just added Instagram. So regardless to where you guys are watching from, make sure you share. Now, if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can support the channel. One being you can send a super chat. You can also super chat a question. Cash App is at Lakeysha Keysha. You can send a PayPal at 𝐿akeyshakeysha22@gmail. And then Venmo, of course, is Lakeysha Keysha Media on Venmo. And of course, you guys should join our members only community where we talk a lot of shit. Okay, so if you guys want to join our member only lives and events, go ahead and purchase yourself a membership. Now let's go ahead and recognize some people in the chat. Taco Boys, we got Karen Roby, we got Melissa Merchant in the chat. We got, let's see, we got Betty Bot, we got Melissa, Rashonda. What's up, Rashonda? My Awakening by Elisa, member in the chat. Lady Marie, Adrienne 7, we got Cicely ACL, member in the chat. Sunshine Rainbow Nursery 3500, Simply Style, we got another member. And Mine Heart 5784, we got Laquita Thomas in the chat. Okay, y'all, let's get into it. So yeah, we gotta I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can, okay? Because what we're not gonna stop talking about is I almost said Carmelo Anthony, but we're talking about Nolan Wells. I do got to get you guys an update on Carmelo Anthony, but we're talking about Nolan Wells, okay? Because there is a push to make us forget about Nolan Wells. There is a push to put out information to try to scare content creators, and tell them not to talk about Nolan Wells, because what is happening is the world is talking about Nolan Wells, okay? Nolan Wells didn't just drown, okay? Anybody, a blind person, can see that Nolan Wells did not just drown. From what I see and from what a lot of people see is that Nolan Wells was murdered, okay? There is a bunch of suspicious surrounding this entire event. So we still want to know what really happened on Horn Island, okay? Nobody has been charged as of yet, but what I want you guys to understand is in order for someone to be charged, there just has to be reasonable doubt or something like that. If I'm saying it wrong, please correct me in the chat, okay? So let me give you guys one reasonable doubt. Hey, Warren Hawkins 6515, you finally became a member. Welcome. All right, so let's get into just one little thing. Oh, we're going to get into Dr. Umar. Yes, y'all, I did watch it, and y'all was right. It was explosive. I had to watch it a couple times. We're going to get into that. And I loved it because everything Dr. Umar said was what I had said. So I was loving his breakdown. We're going to get into that. Just hold on. Now, we talk about reasonable doubt, right? And if I'm saying it wrong, is it reasonable doubt or whatever that is, a legal term for, yeah, that's it, reasonable doubt. So that's all it has to be. Let me just give you guys one. We're not even talking about the CASHAPP call at this moment. They said he went with Katie. Katie stated, what did Katie state? Nolan did not go with her. Katie said that Nolan told her he was getting on a boat with his friends. That was reasonable doubt right there. Why have nobody been arrested? Now, since we just talked about reasonable doubt, I want to show you guys a clip because this is what we have been saying relentlessly over and over again. It's not that there's no reasonable doubt. It's not that they don't know what happened to Nolan. This is about people in high-powered positions covering up a crime, okay? I want to get this through to y'all heads, okay? Because people keep saying, why have nobody been arrested? And it's time that you understand why nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been arrested because the people that's in power, example, the district attorney who should be issuing out arrest warrants, is intertwined with these people. As I said in a previous video, the district attorney and the judge's son, the district attorney and the judge, they work for Mississippi. They work in the same courthouse. They are, I would assume, to be friendly, if not friends. So I want to show you guys a quick video in which this content creator breaks down the relationships. You all have heard this before, but can we stop saying, why have nobody been arrested? It's not about anybody being arrested. It's about people covering for people. Then I want you to understand, although we value Black lives, they don't. Okay. I'm just telling you how it is. Okay. We got to look at things from this, the correct perspective. It is also because they look at a Black life as less valuable. And I'm gonna be honest with you all, since talking about this case, Nolan Wells, since talking about the Tamala Horsford case, and then talking about the Carmelo Anthony case, it has definitely changed my perspective on those people. Because what I have learned in this late year of my life is that these people do not see us as human beings. It don't hurt my feelings at all. But what it does teaches me is that I don't ever have to be nothing but cordial to them, because I will never, ever trust them as far as I can see them. I want you to understand, and I'm going to be honest with you all, I don't even feel like pointing fault at certain people, because think about it. You're raised in a household and you are taught different mannerisms. It's up to you to decide if you want to change them. I want y'all to understand, changing is very difficult, okay? So a lot of people rather just go with what they've been told or what they've been taught versus to go out on the limb and say, wait a minute, I don't think what I've been taught was actually correct. So what I want you all to understand, stop saying, why have nobody been arrested? Nobody has been arrested because it is a cover up. These people are friends with each other.
Allegedly celebrating right next to Warren Hudson's family. This isn't a conspiracy theory. The receipts are staring you dead in the face. They want the public to believe this investigation is being handled with clean hands, but the math ain't fucking mathing. Warren's stepmother is Ashley Cole, a sitting Mississippi Chancery Court judge who is allegedly using her status to impact this case. And here they are, hanging out and allegedly toasting drinks with Ocean Springs mayor. No wonder the state authorities are acting stone deaf to the frantic CASHAPP audio. The primary officials logging the timeline reports allegedly answer to the exact same political and judicial circle these parents socialize with. Look at how deep this goes when you check the public records and nail the real names behind the rumored pool party. That gathering wasn't at some random location. The house allegedly belongs to the family of Lieutenant Karan, who is Ava's father. Yes, the exact same Marine Patrol lieutenant who officially logged the missing person dispatch when Nolan went missing. The pieces are finally fitting together. When Nolan's mother, Christine, frantically called them at midnight to report him missing, they allegedly refused to send a single soul out to search. They left a mourning mother completely helpless. Why? Because they allegedly intentionally stalled the emergency and waited until Patrick Karan got to work so he could be the one to take that official call and control the narrative from day one. They were allegedly already plotting an alibi while they forced her to wait. They think their titles, their judicial robes, and their high society birthday celebrations mean they can rewrite the truth and stay protected behind their institutional shields. It won't work. The internet has the receipts, the timeline is completely shattered, and the circle is allegedly fully exposed. It's your girl Riri reaction with the...
So, of course, the allegedlys are being highly emphasized. If you are a content creator and you're listening to this, all you have to do is give your opinion. You don't have to allege to death, okay? When I speak to my own opinion, okay? I'm not going to say allegedly because I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Now, if I get to that road, I will say that, but this is my perspective, okay? But the things that she spoke to in this video, these are all things that content creators have already found out, that these people are all tied together. So can we stop saying, why have nobody been charged? I want y'all to understand this. And this was something that I had figured out in my head, but it's also what they stated. Nolan's time of death, from my perspective, obviously I wasn't there, had to have been between 3:30 and 4:30. Okay? It had to have been between 3:30 and 4:30. If you guys recall, everyone that said that they spoke to Nolan, it was prior to 3:30. Everyone's time frames that they provided gave them at least an hour or more of time in which they didn't see Nolan. Now, when I thought about that, I thought it was suspicious, but who am I? I wasn't there. But it seems to me that people could be lying to say that they didn't see Nolan because either they witnessed a crime and perhaps they've been threatened, or maybe they just don't want to be involved. I don't know. But I also thought that it was quite strange that it was a time frame that nobody saw Nolan, which to me makes me believe that that had to been the time of death. And we're going to get into Dr. Umar's take on it because interesting, he said the same thing. So he validated everything that I had already thought, but I was like, am I tripping? Am I tripping? So one of the things Dr. Umar said, and again, when I watched his breakdown on it, and we're going to get into it, one of the things he said, if all of those people saw Nolan within 5-10 minutes of seeing, they said that they saw him, did they see each other? Because if I say I saw you at 3:15 and she saw you at 3:30, I mean, did we see each other? It's just something about that story between Javon, Katie, and the coach. To me, is suspect. Okay. Now, are they giving us a different time frame to keep themselves from being into this investigation? Because if you guys recall, I have always said, y'all, something is not right with the times. Now, if y'all can go back and look at my videos, I said something isn't right with these times. Y'all remember I kept saying that? I said something with the times are not adding up. And when I watched Dr. Umar's video, I said, okay, he owned to the same thing I'm on. Something with the time frames that they're providing is incorrect. Another thing, I thought I was tripping, but I was glad to know that Dr. Umar said the same thing. Did you all notice how everybody overly emphasized that they were Nolan's best friends? How many best friends do y'all have? I mean, come on now, I get it, but everybody was best friends with Nolan. You know what I believe that the reason that they said that was for? To make it seem like they were more friendly with him than they really were. Because if you think about it, even in, was it Warren's interview, he spoke about never even coming over to his house. How are you friends with somebody and you never came over to their house? That's just something to think about. Another thing, waiting until 11 o'clock p.m. to call his mother is an extreme red flag. Let me just tell you why. I'm either worried about you or I'm not. If I'm worried about you, I did not get worried about you at 11 o'clock. Oh, I'm worried. I've been worried all day. So what was the significance of you calling his mama at 11 o'clock? I feel like you called at 11 o'clock, and I said this before, and these are my thoughts. I wasn't there. I feel like you called because it was pitch black, and you know that it would be almost virtually impossible to be able to, wait a minute, y'all, to be able to, my bad, to be able to find him, because it was dark. And then it's just red flag after red flag. Raising money for your defense, but you didn't do nothing. This doesn't make any sense. Like, it has to make sense. Another thing, I did a video in which, these ladies had stated that Nolan was transported face down. I believe he was transported face down because his neck was broke. That's just my thoughts. Think about this, and this is something that Dr. Umar pointed out. We're going to get into it. If Nolan was transported face down, which we've heard that he was, they talking about the red in the back of his head was pooling from being laid on his head. How was that from laying on his head when he wasn't laying on his head the entire ride there? I believe he has blunt force trauma to the back of his head. That's just my thoughts. I also believe that something happened in which he was possibly placed in the water after he was already deceased. Those are just my thoughts. One other thing that was pointed out, and these are all things that they have already stated, or we know from Nolan's mother. You reach out to Nolan's mother. You tell her that you don't know where he is. You wait till 11 o'clock, which is very suspect. Not only do you wait till 11 o'clock, you never told his mama that you had his phone. Then when they tracked the phone, it took you 15 minutes. Just imagine you going to pick up something, we don't know where Nolan is. Okay, we're going to go pick up his phone. So we get there to pick it up and you take 15 minutes. That must have been the longest ass 15 minutes in history. Okay. What were they doing? 15 minutes is a long time. Dr. Umar said he believes that they were deleting messages. That is so crazy because I said that in a previous video. What y'all got to understand, and what I have come to understand, is these are people of their ancestors. They had slaves. They did all sorts of things to colored people. These are the people that you want to trust. These are the people Nolan was hanging around. Now, the title of this video, Nolan Xavier Wells Nolan Wells was a victim of a federal hate crime. We can no longer call this an accident, guys, because an accident is something that happened and you reported it. This was no accident. This is given premeditated. It's very much given a hate crime. Why is it that we have officials who are not doing anything to put these folks in jail? I believe because they know that this is a federal hate crime, and federal hate crimes put your ass in prison for the rest of your life.
Role in this at all. Elmore, Tracy, two dark-skinned black men in Mississippi, and both of them said on national television, I don't think race had anything to do with this case. I am disappointed in Brother Elmore. I am disappointed in Coach Tracy. How dare you help these young people avoid the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. federal hate crimes law, Art? By you saying you don't think this had anything to do with race, Brother Elmore and Coach Tracy, you are helping these white folks avoid federal hate crimes charges. And let me tell you why this is important, Art. Let me tell you why this is important. Under the federal hate crimes law, Matthew Shepard, James Byrd, signed by Barack Obama, 2009. Under the Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, you can go to jail for life. You can go to jail for life under the federal hate crimes law. So if you can go to jail for life
under the federal hate crime law, you can go to jail for life. Did y'all listen to what I said in the beginning? They don't believe we are worth it. It's not that they don't have any evidence. They feel like Why should these dusty, dirty white kids go to prison for the rest of their lives? Did y'all even think about this, that this was racially motivated? Did you think about that this crime happened on federal land? Did it ever occur to you why this entire investigation is not being investigated by the feds? It happened on their property. Why do they want to close this investigation? I tell you why they want to close it. They want to close it to protect white folks. Now, I want to show you guys a couple more video clips because, we know something happened to Nolan, but what we don't know is who did it. But what we do know is I feel like everybody knows what happened to Nolan. I feel like white folks is doing what white folks do. They're staying on code. Staying on code is protecting them. They don't give a F about you. Okay. Now, I don't get into this particular content creator, but I want to play this video because it goes to the point that I want to make in this video. And simply is that I feel like Nolan was a victim of a federal hate crime, and that they are all, while all of them may not have participated in the exact unaliving of Nolan, if they didn't see it, they heard about it, but they were there. It was 3 boats, 30 people, and nobody saw anything. What we do know is that Nolan disappeared between 3:30 and 4:30. Nolan says, I'm going back to get on a boat with my fake ass friends, but she never saw him get on the boat. How interesting is that? Nobody saw him.
Nolan last, but it's not being truthful and coming forward as to what they saw, who was with him last. And we have various people that have come out or come to us with the information. And one was sent in a DM honing in on one particular person that may have been in an altercation with Nolan that alluded to the fact that, and I messaged this person because I want to talk directly to the person that I saw the DM from. And we haven't talked to this person yet. But the person said in the DM to another kid that is associated, not any of the kids that I interviewed to talk to, but that could be associated to some degree, that knew Nolan, that this person wrote a message saying, me and my husband saw you arguing with Nolan, and to the effect of you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison.
So I have a problem with that right there, because if you have information, seems like you're interfering in an investigation. Now, I don't know if that's true, what he said, but what I found was a video of a lady saying something very similar. But it gets a little weirder because the person that they're alleging could have been another involved person, which I don't understand what do they consider involved? Because I consider anybody there who watched it and who did not do anything is involved, okay? But they are alleging that another boy that was there, one of those 4 boys, had put something interesting on his social media. And what it said was something about what he had did on the 4th of July. He could go to prison for 10 years.
Regarding Liam, but we're going to rewrite it a little bit because those thugs are not Nolan's friends. So here we go. Did a video of this before, but since Liam is sharing little information more, why not? So apparently there's this lady who said that she saw, she messaged Eric and told Eric that I saw the fight or etc.
So she said his name, Eric. She messaged Eric and said, I saw what you did. What'd he do, y'all?
What was going on, and she was telling Eric that if he doesn't take it to the police, that she was going to go and give their information. Hopefully she's already done it, but that's how this is all coming together. She messages or DMs Eric. Eric blocked the girl or the lady, and then however, Liam apparently sent some messages to Bree, and these I thought were very interesting and telling.
Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but what it says is wait, let me see if I can make it bigger. It says something to the effect that he did something on the 4th of July, and what he did basically can be in jail for 10 years. But what he was doing was reacting. You know how you see something on social media and you kind of react to it. But it was very interesting that he chose to do a reaction or post to that. But of course, now he has, made his page private. I know it was private. I haven't went to try to look, but it was private. When your parents ask about your day out, but everything you did was illegal, deserving a minimum of 10 years in prison. I am confused because what did he do?
Did you do, Eric? What would warrant you guys to get 10 years or more if your parents knew what you guys did that 4th of July night or into the morning hours of the 4th of July? Negligence of murder maybe, or I don't know. You tell us, since you made such a very, very bold statement. Breathe.
I don't know, guys. The only reason why I chose to talk about that, obviously, I don't watch the Tatum guy, but when I saw her video, it reminded me of what he said, because I don't believe shit he says, okay? So what y'all need to understand is they don't want any information to be shown to the public as it relates to the autopsy. Why? Autopsies are normally public information. I have a few cases that I have talked about on my channel that I requested, and I still have them today. Why are they hiding the autopsy after they have already told the public that it was a drowning? But yet we are waiting because they claim that they're presenting this information to the jury. Well, I have a question. What are you presenting to the jury? Because if you are saying that a crime was committed, okay, then you have a suspect. Why won't they at least say we have a suspect of interest? Nothing. Quiet. They're not doing anything, y'all, but protecting these animals. Does this not remind you of the Carmelo Anthony case, where Carmelo Anthony had an entire trial that they forced the public out and only allowed specific white tea folks there? They did not even allow Carmelo's own family to support him because it just wasn't enough seats. The fact that they are hiding everything and making it confidential, they're setting this up for these boys to go free. The more we continue to talk about this, the better, because what they're trying to do is make this go away. Also, we haven't even talked about all of the other people in the state of Mississippi who just came up unalived. What's going on in Mississippi? When we talk about evidence, guys, one part was Katie said Nolan did not stay with me. That was the first shred of evidence. But what we did not know is that there was a 𝐶𝐶𝐭 call where it seems very much that Nolan was on that boat. The very boat that they said that he never got on. Still no arrest. If you listen to that call, there was so many things in that call. He said that there were 7 people on board, like 7. And when he said that, you know what came to my mind? I said, I think he said 7 because he didn't know if Nolan was dead or alive. Because what the hell is like 7? Like 7? I'm so confused. Can you count to 7, 6? What's the situation? Like 7 to me means 7. Because I don't know if Nolan would have been the 8th, but somebody probably not gonna make it. So like 7. That made no sense to me. So now what we're gonna do? Oh, another part I wanted to get into, because we're going to get into Dr. Umar's breakdown. This is also what I think. That's why I'm so glad y'all told me about that video and I watched it. I believe, and I said this before, because I'm trying to figure out, remember I talked about the timelines. I said, something is not right with these timelines. I said, the timelines just don't add up. So I said, because the timelines and stuff just don't add up, I believe, and I believe this for a couple of reasons. The way that his body was decomposed, I believed that they held on to his body for the 4th and the 5th, and then dumped it on the 6th. Do I know for sure? No, but I'm not stupid. And I've listened to everything that they have said. And that is the only conclusion that I can arrive to, because the island had already been searched. And as I told y'all before, when liars lie, what they don't take into consideration is how their lie is going to sound. Because when you lie and you tell it to people, it never sounds right because it's a lie. So why would Nolan's body wash up on the 6th, 2 days later? You've heard that before. You've heard that over and over again. Why would his body wash up 2 days later? It makes no sense.
First of all, Nolan Wells, J-Von, and I want J-Von to hear this, and I want any other Black person who was on Devil Horns Island that day to hear this. And I want any Black person who was celebrating the 4th of July to hear this. No Black person, no Black freedman, no Black immigrant, no member of the Black race at all should have been celebrating July 4th, 2026. No one should have been celebrating America's 250th solar return. And why? Because our ancestors were still enslaved on July 4th, 1776. So why are we on White Devil Horns Island anyway, celebrating George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton and all these other white supremacists and slave masters? Why are we even celebrating them anyway? Nolan shouldn't have been out there. J-Von shouldn't have been out there. No Black person should have been celebrating the 4th of July, period. We would be enslaved for almost another century after America got her independence. So what are we celebrating for? To celebrate the 4th of July as an African is to celebrate the enslavement of your ancestors and the freedom of your slave masters. It makes no sense. Now, with that being said, I'm not blaming Nolan in any way, shape, form, or fashion for his loss of life. I'm just simply saying he shouldn't have been out there. Now let's take a closer look at this, Art. According to what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and what I've read, Nolan, Warren, Wyatt, and Trayston left for Horn Island the morning of July 4th. According to Warren's own words that he offered during an interview with Officer B.T. 𝐾𝐭, that's 𝐾ON as in C-U-N-E, 𝐾ON as in K-H-E-W-N, 𝐾ON as in K-U-H-N, 𝐾ON as in C-O-N-N. So Warren did a sit down with Officer B.T. 𝐾𝐭. And as we all know, B.T. 𝐾𝐭 is white YouTube's pet monkey. He's white YouTube's pet monkey. So Warren sat down for an interview with white YouTube's pet monkey. And he said that they left for Horns Island the morning of July the 4th, and that it was approximately 30 of them spread across 3 boats. Approximately 30 youth spread across 3 boats. They all went to Horn Island together. They arrived at approximately 11:30. So they left around 9-ish, 8, 9-ish, whatever the case may be. They left the morning of July 4th. They arrived on White Devil's Horn Island at about 11:30. So 3 boats, 30 youth, they went together. I'm not clear on whether the 3 boats came back together or not. That's another question that I have, Art. Did they come back together the same way they left together? Because I'm treating all three.
Now, one of the things Dr. Umar did say that I didn't mention, but he made a very interesting point. Everybody that left with Nolan, even if they were on separate boats, every last one of those boats should have been took for evidence, not asked, can we search the boat? We are getting a warrant from a judge and we taking the damn boats, okay? That never happened. That's a problem.
30 of those white youth in all three of those ships as crime scenes and as suspects. All three ships are potential crime scenes. All three boats are potential crime scenes, and all 30 youth are potential suspects. I don't know why Jackson County Sheriff Ledbetter or Jackson County District Attorney Mulrath, I don't know why they decided to separate the boat that Nolan was on, Warren's boat. I don't know why they separated that boat from the other two for purposes of investigation and analysis, because those three boats operated as a team. And since they went out there as a team, and it hasn't been made clear to me whether or not they came back together as a team, all 30 white youth and all three boats should have been part of this investigation, not just the one boat. That is my first big issue with this case. Who decided to separate the other two boats and the other 20 or so youth? I got a problem with that, Art, because according to the Cajun Navy, they have no GPS information on the other two boats, Art. They have no GPS information on the other two boats.
And y'all, that's very important. And listen, y'all good Black people, y'all some smart people, because you all said from the very beginning, we need the GPS on everything, because they can have another boat to come up to them and they can sit idle while putting a body on another boat. Why didn't they investigate this information? Why didn't they get GPS from the other boats? Because clearly they did not do this by themselves. They had help.
Now let's get into this. According to Warren and Nolan's other so-called white friends, they decided to leave the island around 4:30. So they were roughly on White Devil's Horn Island from 11:30 to 4:30. That is about 5 hours. About 5 hours. Now, one question that has to be asked, Art, why did y'all leave so soon? Because they party on Horn Island all day long. Y'all didn't leave at sunset. Y'all didn't leave at sundown. Y'all left after only being there 5 hours. That's a little suspicious, Art. And
that's very suspicious. I wondered the same thing. I wondered, but I probably didn't say it, but I was wondering, like, I thought the purpose was to go to Horn Island to celebrate the 4th. You guys left before the dark had even set in. What happened on Horn Island that everybody was hauling ass to get up out of there?
I haven't heard anybody ask any of them, why did y'all decide to leave after only being there for 5 hours? Did y'all plan to only be on White Devil's Horn Island for 5 hours? Why did y'all leave at that time? But we'll deal with that later. So then let's listen to 𝐬𝐿, Nolan's other best friend. Now, another problem I got with this whole story, Art, is Nolan allegedly had too many best friends. I'm trying to find out, how does Nolan have so many best friends? And why did all of these so-called best friends leave their best friend on White Devil's Horn Island without his cell phone and keys? I'm trying to figure this out. So 𝐬𝐿 claims he's Nolan's best friend. Warren claims he's Nolan's best friend. And 𝐿 allegedly claims that he's Warren's best friend. So did Warren have 3 best friends? Excuse me. Did Nolan have 3 best friends? Did Nolan have 13 best friends? Did Nolan have 30 best friends? Because if 𝐬𝐿 is the best friend of Nolan, and if Warren is the best friend of Nolan, and if 𝐿 is the best friend of Nolan, exactly how many best friends did Nolan have? Are y'all making this up? Who did Nolan tell Warren was his best friend? Who did Nolan ever tell 𝐿 was his best friend? I'm not going to question 𝐬𝐿, because he's a brother. And I do believe that there's a strong chance that they may have been best friends. And I say that not only because 𝐬𝐿 is a brother, Art, but I also felt that 𝐬𝐮, through the investigation team and 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐷, with some of the answers that he gave on TMZ. Some of 𝐬𝐮's answers, in my opinion, kind of made it clear to me he actually cared about Nolan. He actually cared about Nolan. I believe 𝐬𝐮 actually cared about Nolan. And because of that, I'm willing to say that 𝐬𝐮 may have actually been Nolan's best friend. I wish somebody would have asked 𝐬𝐮, Art, to your knowledge, has Nolan ever called Warren his best friend? Has Nolan ever?
And I figure, guys, saying that he's my best friend, to me, is making it look like you are more friendly with him so that you would look like you didn't do anything. Because I thought that was odd too. I said everybody is his best friend, but if you guys listen to what's his name, Trayston's interview, they didn't even have each other phone number. He said that they allegedly used to contact each other via social media. But one thing he said about Nolan is he said Nolan was my real friend because he was one of the ones that would actually call my phone. So they were not friends as they lead on to say, oh, Nolan was my best friend. I feel like that's just something they said to make it seem like they were more loving and caring as it related to Nolan. They truly wasn't best friends because you left your damn best friend stranded.
Called Trayston his best friend? To your knowledge, 𝐬𝐮, has Nolan ever told you that Warren and Trayston were best friends of his? Because, Art, I'm having a problem with this three best friend narrative, okay? I used to be 18 years old. You might have one best friend. You may have two. Don't get me wrong. If you all hang in a pack, you could have three best friends. But according to 𝐬𝐮's own words, Art, he didn't really hang around with them other guys too much. That's what I allegedly thought I heard him say. He didn't hang around with them guys too much. So if you got 2 or 3 or 4 best friends, you guys normally travel as a group. 𝐬𝐮 seemed like he kind of spent most of his time with Nolan alone.
No, I'm just going to answer one comment. I think you all are reading this totally incorrectly. I saw 𝐬𝐮's mother nudge him, but I don't believe she nudged him not to say anything. I believe she nudged him to tell whatever information he knew. If you realize in 𝐬𝐮's previous interview, his first interview with TMZ, he was acting like he didn't know anything. But then when he got with his mom, he was like, yeah, I don't think he would have left his phone. So I don't believe his mother was elbowing him not to say anything. I believe she was doing it like, boy, you better not, you know what I mean? You better not do what you did, you know, when you was on that TMZ interview, because she didn't nudge him and he stopped talking. I believe, because I mean, it's been times that I've had to, you know, tell, you know, the grown folks that I parent, like, listen, come on now. So I don't believe that that was a nudge to say, don't say anything. That was something to say, don't embarrass me, boy. Like, you know that Nolan wouldn't have left his phone, because if you recall in the TMZ interview, he really didn't say much. But then when he was with his mother, he was like, yeah, I don't think Nolan would have left his phone. I think he was more believable with his mother than in the TMZ interview, because I didn't even know that that was him in the TMZ interview. I was like, wait a minute, is this supposed to be the best friend?
Just the two of them, not with Trayston and Warren. Although he knew them, it didn't appear that he hung out with them on the regular. So how could they all then be best friends? It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's unlikely. So according to 𝐬𝐮, Art, he saw Nolan at 3:40 on the island. According to 𝐬𝐮, what I heard him say to TMZ allegedly was that he had another friend who was involved in an altercation, and that he left Nolan at about 3:40 to go check on his buddy, because according to 𝐬𝐮, his buddy was on another ship, and the parents of whomever on this other ship were trying to get him off the island because he was crashing out. He never said who this friend was. He never exactly told us what happened. But he said, I left at 3:40 to go check on my friend on another boat because, quote unquote, well, these are not his words, I'm paraphrasing, he was kind of wilding out, crashing out, and he needed to help calm him down. I'm paraphrasing. He said when he got back, Nolan was nowhere to be found, and I'm paraphrasing. And Nolan's boat that he came on, Warren's boat, the so-called Big Daddy, the 22-foot Triton, had already left the scene. So according to 𝐬𝐮, I left Nolan at 3:40 to go deal with another situation. I came back, he was gone. According to Katie, the white girl who Nolan's white best friends are trying to use as an alibi in this situation. Okay, because they claim, and Warren said the same thing to Officer B.T. Coon when he spoke with him. They claim that Nolan told them, I'm going to hang back on this island and talk to Katie. You guys go ahead, and I'll get back however I get back. Again, I'm paraphrasing. But guess what? We learned through Katie's sister that Katie said She has no knowledge of Nolan ever saying that. In fact, Katie said, Art, that Nolan told her, I got to get ready to head back to the boat because my friends are leaving soon. That don't sound like somebody who plans on staying, Art. Okay? According to her sister, Katie said Nolan told Katie, it's time for me to head back to the boat because my friends are going to be leaving soon. As far as I'm concerned, Art, 𝐬𝐮 and Katie both threw us an alley-oop. 𝐬𝐮 and Katie are throwing Sheriff Ledbetter of Jackson County an alley-oop because neither one of them are corroborating the story of Nolan's white friends on that boat. In fact, 𝐬𝐮 said, this ain't adding up. 𝐬𝐮 said, it's not like Nolan to say, you guys go ahead and leave me on this island and I'm just going to stay back to talk to this girl who I barely know. According to 𝐬𝐮, it don't make no sense. 𝐬𝐮 ain't stupid, Art. That's his friend. He know damn well Nolan didn't tell them that he was going to stay back on that ship. And then Katie, I'm going to give a little bit of respect to Katie on this situation because as a white girl, Art, for her to come out and say that is not what happened, for her to come out and say that Nolan told me I got to get back to the boat because my friends are leaving, for her to say that, Art, that took a little bit of courage and honesty. That took a little bit of integrity. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to give her too much credit.
Katie was saving herself because what Katie wasn't finna do is make it seem like she was the last one with him. So Katie like, oh no, you're not finna put it on me. So all Katie did was save herself.
Because she is trying to clear her name. What Katie is basically doing, Art, is she's saying, listen, y'all did whatever y'all did to Nolan, but you're not going to add me to the narrative. I'm not serving as nobody's alibi. I'm not helping nobody get out of this situation. You're not going to use me as a decoy, but I still appreciate Katie speaking up for Nolan, Art, because she didn't have to do it. Although she's trying to protect herself and stay out of the investigation, I appreciate Katie for letting the world know Nolan told me I got to head back to the boat because my friends are getting ready to leave. Now, according to Katie, Art, she spoke to Nolan sometime between 3 and 4:30. Now, her window appears to be wider than everybody else's window. So 𝐬𝐮's window is much smaller. He said, I saw him at 3:40, went to deal with another situation. By the time I came back, they were gone. Katie said, I spoke with him between 3 and 4:30. And I allege, Art, one of the reasons that Katie is making her window so wide is she's trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for warning them to get their story straight, allegedly. I think Katie's trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for warning them to get their story straight, Art. Now, according to our sister Christine, and my heart goes out to Sister Christine, Nolan's mother. My heart deeply, deeply goes out to you, Queen. According to Christine, Art, she heard from a coach who ran into Nolan on the island as well. And according to the coach, he spoke to Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30. So 𝐬𝐮 didn't see him after 3:40. The coach spoke to him sometime between 2:30 and 3:30. And Katie said her conversation with Nolan was between 3 and 4:30. So you know what that means, Art? We can pretty much conclude that Nolan was likely to have been unalived, Art, sometime within the hour of 3:30 to 4:30.
That is exactly what I had came up with. So I was just like, he is thinking that same thing that I was thinking. Because you know why? We can't say that Nolan was alive after that time. You know why? Because nobody saw him. Okay. There were these fake ass reports of people, of those folks saying, oh, this person saw Nolan. That was all fake and it was all BS. If you guys recall, Nolan's parents went to the island. There were people sleeping on the island. They had spent the night, which is very odd because the Cajun Navy said that nobody can sleep on the island and that they come back through to make sure nobody is on the island. But for some reason this time, they didn't tell us that it was actually people that stayed on the island. I think because then those people would be able to say, yeah, Nolan couldn't have been there because we were there. Those people did not see Nolan. We can only say that Nolan was alive during the time that people actually saw him. I believe as well that his time of death had to be between that 3:30 and 4:30 window.
I'm going to insinuate that Nolan's life was taken because I do not believe he accidentally drowned. If he drowned, he was forcibly drowned. And we'll get to that in a minute. If Nolan drowned, he was forcibly drowned. He did not accidentally drown. He was a great swimmer. Miss me with the nonsense. That boy did not drown. If he drowned, it was by force. So again, Art, all three of these people, arguably the last three to see him alive, except for those who took his life. Katie, the coach, and 𝐬𝐮 are arguably the last three people to see Nolan alive, except for those who took his life on that boat, allegedly. That's my position. So they're all basically cutting off around 3:30. Art. Remember, they made the call for the emergency CASHAPP at 4 o'clock. 𝐬𝐮 said he cut out 3:40. The coach, 3:30. They made the call at 4 o'clock. That conversation we heard, the CASHAPP call, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that took place at 4. It sounded like there was some struggling going on in the background. Nolan could have been getting unalived while they were making the call, Art. Nolan could have been getting unalived while they were making the call.
Nolan could have been getting unalive while they was making the call. Y'all see how this work? The call, which I'm going to say over and over, is real. It's not fake. The call is not fake. We all said they didn't need any help. What was the purpose of that call? Y'all called it. It was an alibi. They didn't need help. They needed an alibi.
Nolan could have been getting choked out while they was on the phone with CASHAPP. So again, Art, my position is Nolan lost his life somewhere within the hour of 3:30 to 4:30. Now, before we go any further, Art, I need Ben Crump investigation team and Sheriff Ledbetter's investigation team to have a conversation with 𝐬𝐿, because according to 𝐬𝐿's statements on TMZ, the police never spoke to him. And I have serious concerns with the manner in which this investigation has been carried out so far, Art. I have very serious concerns with the manner in which this investigation has been carried out so far. So anyway, 𝐬𝐿 said police never spoke with him. Why? We need a conversation with 𝐬𝐿, not because I think he's a suspect. I believe 𝐬𝐿 is innocent, but we need to find out what he knows. That's number one. We also need a conversation, Art, with the coach. Who is this coach that Sister Christine said contacted her and told her he had a conversation with Nolan on the island between 2:30 and 3:30? We need to find out what he knows. And according to Katie's sister, she is already cooperating with the authorities. But here's why those three got to be spoken to, Art. Not only so we find out what they know, Art, but did they see each other during their conversation with Nolan? Because 𝐬𝐿, if you was talking to Nolan and left him at 3:40, and if Katie was talking to Nolan sometime between 3 and 4:30, and if the coach was talking to Nolan between 3:30 and 4:30, Art, at least two of you should have ran into each other. Did the coach?
How is it that they all spoke to Nolan? They didn't speak to him up until the time that it seems that he had been unalive. How is it that they all spoke to him within 15 minutes? And, did they see each other? Very smart perspective.
See 𝐬𝐿? Did 𝐬𝐿 see the coach? Did the coach see Katie? Did Katie see the coach? Did Katie see 𝐬𝐿? Did the coach see Katie? Art, if all three of them are saying they saw Nolan for the last time, roughly within the same hour and a half, Art, did y'all run into each other? Let me tell you why I'm asking this question, Art. And I'm not throwing no shade at my brother 𝐬𝐿. I like 𝐬𝐿. I'm not throwing no shade at Miss Katie McCormick. I don't know her. I'm not throwing no shade at the coach, Art. But the reason I need to know why all y'all put y'all time within the same frame, and you may have not possibly seen one another, Art, are you guys keeping yourself out of the window of witnessing this crime by saying you didn't see him after 3:30? I want you to follow what I'm saying here, Art. It's kind of interesting that they all saw him last at 3:30, not after 3:30. 𝐬𝐿 3:40, roughly 3:30. My point is, Art, for all three of them to have the same exact time, if they did not see each other at all during these conversations with Nolan, are they pushing up the window of time during which they saw Nolan so it cannot be included in this investigation as a witness to a crime? In other words, Art, I don't think 𝐬𝐿 had nothing to do with it. I know he didn't. But is he saying he saw Nolan a little earlier than he saw him so he can't be pulled into the investigation? I don't think Katie had nothing to do with the crime, but is Katie putting her conversation with Nolan a little earlier than it actually took place to make sure she can't be dragged into the investigation as a witness to a crime? Is it possible that the coach is putting his conversation with Nolan earlier than what it was, Art, to make sure he cannot get dragged into the investigation? I don't think they had anything to do with it, but they could have been a witness to a homicide, Art. They could have been witness to a homicide. If they did not see each other, if none of those three people, the coach, 𝐬𝐿, and Katie, if they did not see each other at all talking to Nolan, if none of them saw each other talking to Nolan, at least two of them are lying about the time they last saw Nolan. Are you following me, Art? All I'm saying is I have my suspicions as to whether or not this convenient 3:30 cutoff window, I have my suspicions that this convenient 3:30 cutoff window may have not actually been the time they saw Nolan.
And that's what I've been saying, y'all. I said something about these times. I kept saying it. I said the times is throwing me. The times that they're saying just don't add up. It's something with the times. I feel like it was manipulated. If you guys recall, I did a video a few days ago. I don't know when I did it. It could have been a lie, but there is the young lady on TikTok who breaks this case down. She went to plot everything that they did as it relates to Google Maps. You know what she said? She said they manipulated it and none of it added up as how they presented it. So again, there's been a lot of manipulation as it relates to the times, it seems. And according to the TikToker who wanted to go and backtrack what they put on the GPS, she said it just didn't add up. So why are they manipulating these things?
They have saw Nolan closer to the time he lost his life. Now stay with me, Art. I want to back up for a minute. And I want to say this to Brother Elmore, Nolan's stepfather. And I want to say this to Coach Tracy, who I believe was one of Nolan's coaches. Brother Elmore, the stepfather, and Coach Tracy, the coach, both said on national television, Art, that they don't think race played a role in this at all. Elmore, Tracy, two dark-skinned black men in Mississippi, and both of them said on national television, I don't think race had anything to do with this case. I am disappointed in Brother Elmore. I am disappointed in Coach Tracy. How dare you help these young people avoid the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. federal hate crimes law, Art? By you saying you don't think this had anything to do with race, Brother Elmore and Coach Tracy, you are helping these white.
I think at the time they thought, it's okay. I think they thought that it wasn't race related. But I bet if you ask them today, they know that it is very much so race related. But what Dr. Umar is saying is you know, when you say that it's not racially related, you kind of set the standard for, you know, you don't feel like it's racially related. If y'all remember the Ahmaud Arbery case, those people got life in prison because it was a hate crime. I believe that this is in fact a hate crime. And if you don't believe it is, let's just look at the evidence and the things that has happened immediately after Nolan Wells' death. His mother, fake reviews. They're sending stuff to the board to try to get her to lose her license. What then is it if it's not a hate-related crime?
Folks, avoid federal hate crimes charges. And let me tell you why this is important, Art. Let me tell you why this is important. Under the federal hate crimes law, Matthew Shepard, James Byrd, signed by Barack Obama, 2009. Under the federal hate crimes act, Art, you can go to jail for life. You can go to jail for life under the federal hate crimes law. So if you can go to jail for life under the federal hate crimes act, Art, why is Nolan's stepfather and coach telling white folks they don't think it had anything to do with race? I still love my brother Elmore. I still love my brother Coach Tracy. But would y'all please watch what comes out of your mouth during this investigation? Because you are undermining justice for Nolan. I hope you're listening, brother Elmore. And I hope you're listening, Coach Tracy. You are undermining justice for Nolan by saying you don't think race had anything to do with it. How in the hell do you know? How do you know if race had anything to do with it? How well do you know these young people? It was 30 of them, Art. It was damn near 30 white youth spread across 3 boats. How many of them did Elmore know? How many of them did Coach Tracy know? So how are you going to go on TV and say, I don't think it had anything to do with race? Why are you helping them avoid accountability for what they may have done? I don't know if they did it, Art. You don't know if they did it. They don't know if they did it. And they definitely don't know if it was motivated by race. What they should have said, Art, is what 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻 said. And that's why I like the young brother 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻. That's why I like that young brother 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻. His mother, Sister Tashima, shout out to you. You raised a good kid. When TMZ asked 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻 if he thought it had anything to do with race, Art, when TMZ asked 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻 if he thought this had anything to do with race, he said, what? I don't want to answer that question. I don't want to answer that question. Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Or, Art, they could have said, I don't know. Nolan's stepfather could have said, I don't know if it had anything to do with race. Coach Tracy should have said, I don't know if it had anything to do with race. But to say you don't think it had to do with race when he was the only black boy across 3 ships, are you out of your mind? Why would you say that and help them avoid the Federal Hate Crimes Act? 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻 gave a better answer than those 2 black men. 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻, a child, gave a better answer than those 2 black men, Art, when he said, I don't want to answer the question. And shout out to 𝐬𝐻𝐵𝐻, Art. He's intelligent. You know why? Because by saying, I don't want to answer the question, he answered the question. Of course, race has something to do with it. This is the United States of America. Race has something to do with everything involving black people. The country was built on the backs of black people. It's maintained on black people. We are disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system, overrepresented in the unemployment line, under the poverty line. Of course, everything in this country has to do with race. And I'm disappointed in us, Art, that we are so afraid to call racism what it is, that we literally got people asking us, when a white person takes the life of a black person, do you think it had anything to do with race? When a police officer takes the life or shoots a black person, do you think it had anything to do? What kind of idiotic gaslighting question is this, Art? All white people are racist. All white people are racist. So we can stop asking if it had anything to do with race. If it's black and it's white, it has something to do with race because all white people are racist. That's just how it is. Now let's get back to this. Let's get back to this. Before we deal with the infamous 𝐶𝐶𝐭 call, Art, I got a few questions for Warren. I want to deal with that infamous 𝐶𝐶𝐭 call, Art, and I want to deal with Sister Tashima and Sister Christine's visit to Warren's home to get Nolan's cell phone. I want to deal with them too in a minute, but before I go there, I got a couple of questions for Warren and his white friends. Nolan's best friend, and Warren even called Nolan his brother, Art. He even called him his brother. He said they spent the night together before they went out to White Devils on Island, Art. The night before July 3rd, they stayed in the same home.
One thing that I like to ask you guys while you're here, all you have to do is hit the like button. That's pretty much all we ask. We got actually 2,400 people in here on both channels. So if you guys can hit the like button, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything.
How do you stay in the same home with somebody, Art, and leave them on an island? How do you sleep in the same house with somebody July 3rd and then leave them on an island July 4th? But I got a few questions for Warren. No disrespect. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty, but I got a few questions for you, Warren. So you can sit down and interview with Officer B.T. 𝐾𝐭, I need you to sit down and interview with Dr. 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐻𝐾. So you can sit down and interview with Officer B.T. 𝐾𝐭. I want you to sit down and interview with Dr. 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐻𝐾. My first question to Warren. You said that Nolan is a best friend of yours, that he's like a brother. I have a question. If Nolan is your brother and best friend, why did you leave him on that island, especially when you all were drinking? Because somebody put a report out there, Art, that Nolan had been drinking heavily and was intoxicated. Of course, that allegation was dismissed because the coach who contacted Sister Christine confirmed that he spoke to Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30, and Nolan was not intoxicated. So they lied to protect their friends because white people are always on code, Art. Not a single white person on that island dropped a dime yet, not one of them. So anyway, Art, they tried to blame it on him being drunk. So he was just a drunk black kid who walked into the water and drowned. That's the narrative they wanted us to swallow. He was just a drunk black kid who walked into the water and drowned. And remember, Art, Sheriff Ledbetter allegedly ruled the case an accidental drowning before he did any investigation. He ruled Nolan's death an accidental drowning before he did any investigation. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. But staying with Warren, Art. Warren, if Nolan is your brother and best friend, why did you leave him on an island? without his cell phone and his keys? Why did you take his cell phone and keys back to the mainland? You left him there and took his cell phone and keys back. Can you please explain that to me?
Not only, and this is another point that he makes that I was like, he said everything I've been saying. You report your friend missing, your fake friend, because he wasn't your friend. You call his mother, who then say after she was notified, she was calling his phone. You never said, oh, Miss Christine, I do have his phone. You know why he never told the mother? I believe the reason why he never told her that he had Nolan's phone, or they had Nolan's phone, or he allegedly left it on the boat. Imagine somebody telling you they don't know where your child is and say, oh, and by the way, we have their phone. She would have went into a whole situation. They never told the mother that they had his phone. She had to track the phone down.
What person wants to be on an island without their phone? Help me understand that, Warren. I don't know of an 18-year-old who wants to be anywhere without their phone. They don't want to be in school without their phone. They don't want to be at home without their phone. They don't want to be out of town without their phone. They don't want to be at the mall, the movies, the restaurant. They don't want to be nowhere without their phone, let alone on an island with no way to get off. You left your best friend on an island, your so-called brother. You left him on an island with no way to get off, and you took his phone and his keys. Can you explain that to me, Warren? While you're thinking about it, I got another question for you, Warren, while you're thinking about it. You said at 11 o'clock, you called Miss Christine to see if she heard from her son. Warren said, Art, I called Miss Christine to see if she heard from Nolan. She said she had not heard from Nolan. Can I ask you a question, Warren? If you took his phone, how in the hell was his mother supposed to hear from her son when you have the son's phone? Did you tell Miss Christine that you had her son's phone when you called her? I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. Think about that, Art. He called the mother and asked her if she heard from her son. But he knows she didn't hear from her son, Art, because he has her son's phone. How can the mother hear from Nolan when you have Nolan's cell phone and you left him on an island? And I bet you didn't tell her you had his phone. Because if she knew you had his phone, Art, she would not have had to use Life 360 to find the phone. If you had his phone and you called her at 11 o'clock to see if Nolan was okay, why didn't you tell Nolan's mom you had his phone? Why didn't...
Now listen, he said, you know, just a he. We don't need to use these losers' names. I saw where he said on some COON's podcast that he told the mother that he had the phone. Well, I don't believe that, because if you told her, then she wouldn't need to track it. She would have said, where are you? That makes no sense. Why would the mother track a phone? Because she's trying to figure out where is the phone. That makes no sense. What Dr. Umar says in here too that I like, I wish they would have not told them that they had tracked the phone and just asked for the phone. And then when they said they didn't have it, they should have went outside and called the police. That's what they should have done, but too late for that.
My sister Christine and my sister Tashima have to use Life 360 to find their son's phone because you're playing games. You playing games. You playing in our face like we stupid. That's what this is. I don't know if he did it, Art, but he damn sure knows who do. I allege and I believe that all 30 of those white kids on all 3 of them boats know exactly which one of them did it, and the rest of them are covering it up. And guess what, Warren? And the rest of...
I second that. I believe the same thing. This is what I've been saying. I believe, obviously, I don't know who did what, but I believe whoever did it, it's not like they did it and nobody saw it. I believe that they're doing what good, nasty white folks do, being on code to protect each other because they don't give a damn about us, okay? Our life means nothing to them, okay? Nothing. So they know, whoever know what happened, they watched it. If they didn't watch it or they didn't see everything, they saw some of it or they heard it or they saw it from afar, they know what happened. They're sticking together. This just don't make sense. You know why it don't make sense? Because the shit don't make sense. Nolan Wells did not drown. He was unalived.
You 30 white kids on those 3 boats. Let me explain something to you. Federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody didn't tell you. Federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody told you. Guess what? The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, you can go to jail for up to 30 years. And if Nolan was unalived by more than one person, that constitutes a lynching. That constitutes a lynching. So you can go to jail for up to 30 on the Emmett Till Act. You can go to jail for life on the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Hate Crimes Act. And in the state of Mississippi, Art, if you are an accessory after the fact, not accomplice.
And here's the deal. This is what y'all need to understand. The district attorney noticed already. And you want to know why nobody has been charged. They haven't been charged because the evidence is overwhelming. And I've said this from the beginning. I believe they're getting rid of evidence. I don't believe nothing is going to happen. I'm just being real with y'all. I don't believe anything that's going to happen. Who do you know? Your friend dies and you immediately start attacking their mother. Then you think that you can come your raggedy ass onto YouTube and social media and compile a list of people you want to sue, which you're going to make yourself look like a got de fool, and nobody's going to stop talking. As a matter of fact, we're getting louder because what you're doing is you're making yourself look very much suspicious and guilty.
Accomplice means you participated in the murder. Accessory means you helped cover it up afterwards. If you are an accessory to the fact after the fact, Art, you can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law. So they can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law. Accessory after the fact, you helped to cover up the crime. You can go to jail for 30 years on the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, because more than one of you probably participated in Nolan's unaliving. And under the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, they can go to jail for life. And this is why I need Nolan's step pop and coach to watch what comes out of their mouth and stop trying to help these white kids avoid accountability for what they did to Nolan. Because if the tables were turned, white folks are not going to try to help your child avoid any accountability. So stop the. Now, another question I have for Warren. You said you and Nolan been friends since 8th grade. Since 8th grade, Art. But Sister Christine says she don't know none of them kids really, Art. She don't know them white kids. So help me understand how you are Nolan's best friend since 8th grade. You called him your brother. Y'all spent the night together July the 3rd, the morning before y'all went to White Devil's Horn Island. And his mother don't even know who you are. And you said out your own mouth that y'all never hung out at Nolan's house. So how are y'all best friends? I had best friends growing up, Art. My mother knew who they were. Who has a best friend that their mom don't know about? Help me understand.
I was wondering the same thing. I mean, you don't even know, you know who his parents is, but you don't know them. And that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. The best friend was just the over analyzing so that you cannot look at me because Nolan was my best friend.
A best friend and the mom don't know him, it sounds suspicious. Why didn't you tell Miss Christine you had her son's cell phone when you called and asked if she heard from him? Or as far as I'm concerned, this probable cause he had something to do with this. Or I'm holding her son's cell phone. I left him on the island. I took his keys and phone. And I'm on the phone with the mom. I got his phone. But I'm calling his mother at 11 o'clock. Have you heard from your son? And I'm holding her son's cell phone. And I would even tell her. Art, this ain't making no sense. This ain't making no sense. And I want to know from Sheriff John Ledbetter, Art, Jackson County Sheriff, you don't have probable cause just off of that alone. Somebody calls somebody's mom asking if she heard from him while they have their phone and left him stranded on the island. And if you care so much about Nolan, Art, if he cares so much about Nolan, the so-called white best friend, Art, why did you wait till 11?
I just want to address this comment. These are the things that I think is so ridiculous. And I'm not sure where y'all get these ridiculous things from. Somebody says, in my opinion, I believe he was unalive because of the relationship Nolan had with the judge. Where do you guys get these lies from? Like, where is the proof? You know, that's the most craziest shit that I've ever heard of. And, you know, it's crazy. To me, when people start saying stuff like that, it takes the validity away from what really happened. I'm not sure where y'all get that crazy shit from. I just don't know. You do know on YouTube, people be over here lying all the time. I'm not entertaining any garbage like that. I haven't heard of anything like that. There is no proof. You just making up stuff. What relationship did Nolan have with the judge? Where's the proof? Did you hear that on someone's YouTube channel? I don't know anything about that.
O'clock. Y'all left the island 4:30. Y'all left the island 4:30. If you care so much about Nolan, why are you not calling his mother until 11 o'clock? It's pitch black outside at 11 o'clock. It's pitch black. It's almost midnight. And you wait till 11 o'clock to call his mom and ask her if she heard from her son when he's supposed to be your brother and best friend. Listen here, Warren. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. And then I have a question for his dad, too, Art. I don't know if you know this, but his dad has started an online fundraising platform for Warren and two of his friends. I think they raised $160,000 so far. $160,000. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has received a warrant. Nobody has been indicted. Nobody has been charged. Art, if you are innocent, why are you raising money online? You ain't been charged with a crime at all. The state of Mississippi is doing everything they can to make sure y'all don't get charged with anything. So why are you raising money online? Why did y'all cancel your social media? Why are y'all lowering up? They hired Donald Trump's lawyer, Art. One of Donald Trump's lawyers is now the three of their lawyers. If you're innocent, what you need Donald Trump's lawyer for? If you're innocent, what you raising $160,000 for? It sounds like y'all getting ready to defend yourselves. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like y'all think the truth is going to get out really, really soon, and y'all want to be prepared for it. Again, Art, I'm not saying he did it, but I definitely believe he knows who do. Now, we're going to get to this call. We're going to get to this call. But before we get to this call, Art, I'm going to ask the question of Benjamin Crump. Attorney Benjamin Crump. I met him twice, Art. I met Benjamin Crump the day before I graduated with my doctorate at an Urban League conference in New Orleans. I presented at a workshop at the Urban League conference in New Orleans. This is July of 2012. And I flew back to graduate and get my doctorate in clinical psychology.
I just want to say this because people seem to, Ben Crump he's a lawyer, right? he doesn't do anything with criminal defense. And people keep saying Ben Crump. I need you guys to understand Ben Crump sues people, okay? So I need you also to understand is Ben Crump is taking account of everything. He's not a criminal defense. I think he's done more than he, should have, because initially his job is to sue for damages. Okay. That's what he does. So I don't understand why people keep pointing the finger at Ben Crump when Ben Crump's job is to sue folks. That's what he does. So Ben Crump doesn't really come on the scene unless it's a huge situation. So while it makes sense for, Ben Crump to, maybe try to help the family as much as he can, ultimately, when the, like the state or whatever, the district attorney is doing all of these things, this is going to go into his list of damages. So I think people kind of forget that. Ben Crump is a lawyer that sues people. Okay. So I'm sure he has a notebook, or whoever's keeping track of all of this. He has all of this stuff written down, but this just makes his case bigger. This is what he does. So I think people forget that.
We had lunch. It's a few of us at the table. We had lunch. Okay. This is around the Trayvon era. And then I met Benjamin Crump again at HBCU Delaware State University about 3 or 4 years ago at the Black Farmers Conference that was put on by one of the Black professors there. She invited me to keynote the luncheon, and she switched me out at the last minute for attorney Benjamin Crump. I understand it was a Black bourgeoisie event. I'm not a member of the Black bourgeoisie. I got switched out. I understand. No harm, no foul. Ben Crump gave a good speech. But here's my question to Benjamin Crump and 𝐿_Sharpton. Here's my question to Benjamin Crump and 𝐿_Sharpton are, how long are y'all going to wait around before y'all call a spade a spade? How long is Ben Crump and 𝐿_Sharpton going to wait around before they tell the world that they don't think this investigation is being done correctly? How long before Benjamin Crump and 𝐿_Sharpton demand that the FBI and Department of Justice take over this investigation? Art, it's been over a month and we know nothing. It's been over a month and we know nothing. Now, let me say this, Art. There's several circumstances through which you can demand the FBI come in and take over an investigation. One of them, Art, if there is a suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice. The FBI, the Department of Justice, can come in and take over a case on the suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice. So you want to say, Dr. Umar, what evidence do you have of that? First of all, they declared this an accidental drowning before they did any investigation. That's a cover-up. Not only that, Art, they never treated the boat like a crime scene. They never took a look at the other 2 boats. We have no information at all on the other 2 boats. Those 30 white kids should have had their cell phones confiscated, investigated. All their social media should have been investigated. Their homes should have been investigated. They should have all been interrogated. They should have been investigated to see if they or their parents had any connection to any of the white hate groups in the state of Mississippi. None of that was done. They gave the boat back to the owner, Art. They gave the boat back. The boat may have been a crime scene, and they gave it back. Now, according to the Cajun Navy, another question for Ben Crump, Art. According to the Cajun Navy, they offered Ben Crump to put dogs on the boat and let the dogs sniff it out to see if anybody had recently been deceased on that boat or if there had been any blood on that boat. And according to the representative from the Cajun Navy, Ben Crump told him, don't do it. So I need Ben Crump, respectfully, I'm not accusing him of nothing, Art, but I need Ben Crump to explain to me why you didn't let them use the dogs to sniff out that boat. Why did you not let them sniff out that boat with them dogs? Did you have your own dogs to sniff out the boat? Because if you didn't, why didn't you let them sniff the boat out with the dogs? The dogs can tell, Art, if somebody had recently lost their life or if blood had been spilled. He said Ben Crump told him no. I need Ben Crump to explain that. I need Sheriff John Ledbetter to explain why the boat wasn't treated as a crime scene, potential crime scene. I need him to explain why all them white kids wasn't arrested and questioned. Because if it was black kids and a white kid went missing, Art, they would have all been arrested and questioned. You know that. They would have all been arrested and questioned. And then let's talk about the autopsy, Art. Let's talk about the autopsy. So the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, they do their autopsy July 7th, right? July 7th. And then Nolan's mother requested an autopsy, and she did that. They send Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. When the black medical examiner gets to Nolan's corpse, Art, the throat tissue and the lung tissue is gone. How is he supposed to determine if Nolan died from being choked out or if Nolan died from drowning if he don't have the throat tissue or the lung tissue, Art? How is he supposed to do his job? And y'all didn't send the throat tissue or the lung tissue. And nobody has explained yet whether or not the medical examiner in D.C. is ever going to get the throat tissue or the lung tissue. And I personally believe, Art, Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. I believe Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. And the reason they held onto the throat tissue and the reason they held onto the lung tissue is they didn't want nobody to know that Nolan was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Emmett Till was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Dr. King's brother, A.D. King, was murdered before he hit that water. Remember, Art, when Dr. King's brother was murdered, Reverend A.D. King, they found him in a swimming pool. They ruled it a drowning. And then one of the paramedics said, what, Art? One of the paramedics who took Dr. King's brother out the pool, Art, said he didn't have no water in his lungs. The paramedic said he didn't have no water in his lungs, Art. And plus, A.D. King, just like Nolan, A.D. King, just like Nolan, was a great swimmer, Art. Was a great swimmer. They kept them lungs, I believe. They kept the lungs, Art, because they knew that those lungs would have provided evidence of the fact that Nolan may have been deceased before he hit that water. They kept the throat because it may have shown some trauma that Nolan may have gotten choked out. And then you got the red substance around the back of the head that the DC medical examiner discussed. We don't know if Nolan got hit in the back of the head. We don't know if the blood simply drained to the back of the head. But here's the thing, Art. They say Nolan was found face down in the water. Nolan was found face down in the water, Art. Not only that, Nolan was transported face down to Washington, D.C. So guess what, Art? I have my doubts as to whether or not the red, which is probably blood in the back of the head, the subcutaneous red area, Art, I don't think that has anything to do with the blood draining to the back. You want to know why? Because he was found floating on his face. And he was sent to Washington, D.C. on his face. So the blood couldn't have went backwards, Art. I believe Nolan got hit in the back of the head, and it was that hit that cost him his life. It was that hit that cost him his life. It was that hit that cost him his life. Now, with that being said, Art, I want to go to Sister Tashima and Sister Christine going over to Warren's home, allegedly, to get Nolan's phone. So Sister Christine reported Nolan missing around 12:22 p.m. on the 4th. Sometime after that, her and Sister Tashima, 𝐬𝐿's mom, used Life 360 Art, and they tracked the phone to Warren's home. I believe it was Warren's home. Don't hold me to that. I believe it. No, I think it was one of their friends' home, lady friend's home. I think Warren said they were swimming at a lady friend's home. Whoever house it was one of them kids who was out there on White Devil Horns Island. So they tracked the phone to his house, Art. And Sister Tashima said when they opened up the door, the house was dark. You know what a house was dark, Art? They turned the lights off so they wouldn't recognize nobody's face. When they saw Nolan's mom is outside, this is what I believe happened. This is what I'm gonna let Nolan's mother and 𝐬𝐿.
Now, you know what? I didn't think about that. But when he said it, I said, you know what? I didn't think about that. When they said that they pulled up and it was, it was dark, I was wondering, like, why the hell is it dark? But then as I thought about it, it took me back to, if you don't want to be bothered, you just turn the damn lights off. So what he said made sense. It seemed like they didn't want to be bothered. Turn the lights off.
His mother are outside. How did they know where we are? Turn the lights off because they are not going to leave until we open this door. They turn the lights off, Art, so they can hide. They didn't know that Nolan had Life 360 on that phone. They didn't know that Nolan had Life 360. Now, Sister Tashima said, Art, it took them 15 minutes to bring the phone. Art, she said it took them 15 minutes.
Now listen, if y'all go back and look at my old video, I said the same thing. I said, listen, I'm trying to figure out why did it take so long to get the phone? Keep in mind, guys, this is a situation where they are trying to find Nolan and you lollygagging, taking forever with the phone. What took you so long to get them the phone? I said this before. I believe the reason that it took so long is because they was deleting stuff off of the phone. Now, this is just what I thought. But listen, I don't know Dr. Umar. He said the same thing.
You know why? Because they was deleting his Snapchat accounts. That's why, Art. It took them 15 minutes to bring the phone because they were deleting Nolan's Snapchat account. And they also needed to make sure they had their story straight in case Sister Christine and Sister Tashima had any more questions, Art. That's what was going on. But let me say this to Sister Christine and Sister Tashima. My beautiful African sisters, don't you ever again in your life go to a home at that time of night by yourself without no men. Brother Elmore should have been with y'all. You are in Mississippi. You don't know who would have been in that house. You don't know what type of racist rednecks could have came out there and attacked you guys.
Thank you in the chat. I'm not going to keep explaining over and over. Thank you so much for explaining it. I'm not going to keep saying the same thing over and over. It'd be funny. People say, why you keep repeating yourself? But it's okay when I have to repeat stupid stuff over and over. I'm not going to keep repeating why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay. But thank you for saying it.
And y'all could end up missing just like Nolan. And once again, they would say they never saw y'all. And once again, they would say that they never saw y'all. So please don't do that again. I know you was looking for your son. I know you was helping your girlfriend look for her son. But don't y'all ever pull up at a white people's house you don't know after midnight. Don't you do that no more, ladies. Bring a couple alpha males with you. Bring Brother Elmore with you next time. But this is what I wish they would have done, Art. Let me tell you what I wish they would have done. When Sister Tashima and Sister Christine got to that house, Art, I wish they would not have told them they knew the phone was in there. Stay with me, Art. I wish they would have not told them they knew the phone. They should have played it off, Art. They should have.
I believe, though, honestly, think about it. I don't think they thought that it was going to get to this. I don't think that they would have imagined that we would be here today. Like, they probably didn't imagine that Nolan was going to be like, you know what I mean? So I can understand, like, now looking back at it, why they did whatever it was that they did in terms of looking for the phone and saying, listen, I know the phone is here, instead of saying, do you have the phone? Because asking them if they have the phone, yeah, they could have called him in a lie, but I don't think it would have helped because they would have just lied again, just like they're lying now, saying that they text her and told her that they had the phone. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know if it would have helped the case at all, because y'all got to understand, and we have talked about this relentlessly, this is a cover up. Like, you have the officials covering this up. We as lay people realize that this is a cover up. We realize that evidence have been overlooked. I mean, we realize this. So I don't know if it would have helped.
Said, we want to know if anybody has seen Nolan. We haven't heard from him since he went with y'all to White Devil's Horn Island. And they would have said, we ain't heard from Art. And then I would have said, do you know if Nolan had his phone with him? I've been calling my son all day. He's not picking up. Do you know if he had his phone? And if they would have said, no, Art, if they would have said, we don't know if he had his phone or not, you know what I would have done? I would have called the police and I would have told the police, Art, my son is missing. He went to White Devil's Horn Island with these white kids in his house. They have his phone. They don't know. I know they have his phone. And they just lied to my face and told me that they don't know where the phone is and the phone is right in there with them. I believe that they are suspects in my son's disappearance and I want them all arrested. That's what I wish they would have done, Art. I wish they didn't tell them they knew the phone was in there. I wish they would act like they didn't know if the phone was in there and just ask them if they saw the phone. And once those white kids lied, I would have called the police because they never thought anybody was coming for Nolan's phone and keys. They never thought anyone was coming for Nolan's phone and keys because they didn't know Sister Christine had Life 360 on that phone, Art. They did not know that. And I think it is so disrespectful, Art, so racist and so bigoted that white people are filing false reports on Sister Christine's nursing license, Art. She now got to go before the nursing board in Mississippi.
There you go. There you go. If you don't think that is race related, if you didn't think it was race related, tell me why are you filing false complaints on Christine's license? And you're so stupid that you are filing complaints and she ain't even been to work. So tell me, how is any of them damn complaints valid when you filing complaints as if you had this service and she ain't even been to work to damn provide the service? So tell me, why do people, or, they originally said that they thought it wasn't, geared toward, his skin color. I mean, if you didn't think it then, you should know it now.
Nolan's mother, still grieving the death of her son. She got to go and defend her credentials because white folks are mad that she's demanding justice for her son. This sounds just like Emmett Till's mother. They did the same thing to Emmett Till, Art. After they assassinated Emmett Till, they harassed his mother. They sent her all type of threatening phone calls, letters, notices. Here we are, Art. 61 years later, they're doing the same thing to Nolan Wells' mom. For black people who think white people have changed, Art, it's time to wake up and smell coffee. They are their ancestors, Art. They are their ancestors. They might be.
That part, listen, it's for y'all to understand this, okay? It's for you to understand it. I had to tell my son today, I said, son, you know what I realized? I said, I don't think it's possible to really be friends with white people. I said, because if you really think about it and you go back in history, their ancestors could have had slaves. Some of them have been taught things as it relates to thinking that they're better than black people. I said, so I don't know how you would befriend something like that. I said, think about, I think about Nolan, how Nolan thought these people were his friends and he had known them since middle school, so how is it that this happened to him by people that he thought was his friends? Then I look at the Tamala Horsford story. She was a grown-ass woman in her 40s, went to a sleepover with some white folks, didn't go home. Even at 40, they still covered up another lady that she was murdered, and pretend like the lady fell off the balcony. Her whole face was beat. They said she had a big gash. It's just all type of stuff. But yet and still, she thought these people was her friend. You know what I said? I don't want them as friends, just associates, because I don't have 5 years to waste. And then I get to a situation and now I'm not here no more, because I'm not going to want you to be my friend that much that I end up dead and I'm not here and you somewhere living your life. I don't want it. I don't want y'all to be my friends. High and by. That's it.
They are their ancestors. And since they are their ancestors, we need to be our ancestors. Now, let's talk about the infamous 𝐶𝐶𝐭 call, Art. So again, J-Von sees Nolan at 3:40. The coach sees Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30. Katie sees Nolan between 3 and 4:30. I already told you I believe Nolan was unalive between 3:30 and 4:30. Now, our sister, what was her name? Jacqueline Brentley or something. Jeanette Brentley, Jacqueline Brentley. Forgive me, sister, for mispronouncing your name. But our sister, who is an audio engineer, Art, she went through the laborious process of cleaning up the background conversation during the infamous 𝐶𝐶𝐭 call. She cleaned up the background audio during the infamous 𝐶𝐶𝐭 call, Art. And during the infamous 𝐶𝐶𝐭 call, Art, according to her cleanup, it sounds like they were trying to clean up an unaliving of Nolan Wells. You hear people saying things like, is he still alive? Did you unalive him? Is he okay? People are shocked, asking questions. Is he still breathing? If that tape gets corroborated, all the white young folks on those 3 boats need to go to jail, Art. They need to be charged, all of them. Whether you committed the crime, whether you was an accomplice to the crime, whether you was an accessory to the crime. Whether you committed the crime, first-degree murder, whether you was an accomplice to the crime, you helped them carry it out, whether you was an accessory to the crime, you helped them plan it, or you helped them cover it up, Art, because I'm having problems. I'm having problems with this investigation. It is.
And that's what I need y'all to understand. It's not about who did it. When a crime is committed and you were there, you might as well had you probably would come out better if you just take part in it, because you standing there idle watching it happen, you are just as guilty. If someone commits a crime and tell you about it, you are just as guilty. That's why I tell folks, whatever you're doing, don't tell me, because I'm not going to jail for nobody, okay? And you don't want to go to jail, don't tell me, because I ain't going to jail. So those are all the categories. You were there and you did not do anything. This is why this case is so difficult for these white tea folks, because it means a whole bunch of folks going to prison, including their mammies, their daddies, the granddaddy. Everybody is in trouble here. This is a whole RICO case. This is an entire RICO right here.
Too lax, it is too soft. And my question to Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, how long before y'all going to demand that the federal Department of Justice take over the investigation, Art? As I was saying earlier, you can demand the feds to take over the investigation, Art, if there is concern about public corruption and obstruction of justice. One of the boys' mom or stepmom, and I think it's Warren, allegedly, one of the boys' mothers or stepmothers is a chancery court judge. Another one of the children's parents is allegedly tied to the FBI. So, Art, if their parents are tied up in the Mississippi state power structure, if these children's parents are tied up in the Mississippi state power structure, you know damn well Mississippi is not trying to find any of those kids guilty of anything. You know that. Mississippi does not have a history of helping Black people find justice.
What y'all need to understand is, understand first the state. This is the state of Mississippi. Not only is it the state of Mississippi, Mississippi has a history of doing what the hell they do. Not only is this the state of Mississippi, we got some very influential people. We got judges, we got doctors of major hospitals and people with big titles that are potentially involved. And when I say involved, if my cousin, friend, or somebody is in the commission of a crime and I tell them what to do, guess what? I am just as guilty. What we learned is that a grandfather canceled the CASHAPP call. Why did the grandfather cancel the CASHAPP call? What did that grandfather know that he decided to cancel that call? What adults were on that particular boat who may have directed these young adults and told them what to do? This is an entire cover-up, and a lot of people need to go to prison.
Against white people. That is not the history of Mississippi. It ain't the history of Arkansas. It ain't the history of Texas. It ain't the history of Louisiana. It ain't the history of South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, or none of those states. So why isn't Ben Crump and Al Sharpton calling for a federal investigation? That's number one. Number two, Art, guess what? Horns Island is federal land. Horns Island is federal land, Art. If Horns Island is federal land, Art, why are we not demanding that the feds do the investigation and not Sheriff Ledbetter? The island is federal land, Art. It's federal land. Why aren't the feds?
Now that's my question. Why is the feds not taking the lead in this investigation? That would be like you go into a federal building and something happens. It's federal. It's a federal building. The state don't come in and investigate that. How does that even happen? Any crime that happens on federal property, it's federal that investigates it. Why is the state over this particular case? I have a theory. I feel like the state is over it because the state wants to protect these people of the state of Mississippi.
Carrying out the investigation. That's the second reason they should be involved. The third reason they should be involved, Art, is there's a strong likelihood that this was a federal hate crime and a lynching. Very strong likelihood that this was Nolan Wells' death is very likely to have been a federal hate crime, and it is very likely to have been a federal lynching, meaning more than one person participated in the racially motivated crime.
Racially motivated crime. That's the title of this video. Nolan Xavier Wells, victim of a federal hate crime. A hate crime is a federal crime, and you can go to jail for the rest of your life. What are we doing here? Why are we playing around? If Nolan Wells came home and he decided to go on an island and it all be Black kids, and a white tea kid came up unalived, would we be having this same conversation?
Just gave you 3 reasons why the feds should be investigating this case and not the sheriff's office. Why is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton dragging their feet? Benjamin Crump, you need to have a street march. You need to bring all of the black militia groups to Mississippi, and we need to march on Mississippi. Your approach to this investigation is too humble, it is too docile, it is too meek, it is too soft. You are dealing with Mississippi, and you have not activated any street protests. Sister Christine and Brother Nolan are not going to get justice, Art. Sister Christine and Brother Nolan Wells are not going to get justice, Art, if Benjamin Crump doesn't activate a street activism campaign. It is time for Ben Crump and Al Sharpton to activate a street activism campaign. And let me say this, Art. Al Sharpton is about to have another march on Washington. For what? For what? He's going to commemorate the Dr. King 1963 March on Washington. He's been doing it almost every year. But Art, it's an empty symbol. Al Sharpton, listen to me, sir. You don't need to march on D.C. We don't need another empty, meaningless Democratic Party-sponsored march in Washington.
Now, I have to agree on that. We got people that's lining up unalived in Mississippi. We can that damn whatever's going on in Washington, D.C. Postpone that. We got bigger problems. Postpone that. We got bigger problems.
In D.C., we need you to switch that march, Art. Al Sharpton, if he cares about justice for black Mississippi, if Al Sharpton cares about justice for black Mississippi, Art, he will switch the march from D.C. to Mississippi. Al Sharpton needs to switch the march from Washington, D.C. to Mississippi. And it should be 4 days, Art. It should be 4 days, Art. We should march in Senatobia, Mississippi one day for Baby Cohen, who was shot and murdered by the police in the Walmart parking lot. We got to march for Baby Cohen, who was shot by the police in Senatobia.
I love it. This is so important. You're not going to get Kash Patel's DOJ to investigate Mississippi. This is why it's so important to vote. For some reason, we got a lot of people that thought that Donald Trump was a good choice of president. I said, I don't give a damn how much I might, or I don't say I didn't agree, but, you know, maybe I didn't agree with some of the things Kamala said, but I still voted for her because I could never vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump don't give a fuck about black people. Anything to do with a black person, he don't care. You know, it is what it is. You're right. You're right. You're not going to get Kash Patel's DOJ to investigate. First of all, what you should have said, anything to do with anybody black, okay? It is what it is. It's very important, people, that y'all vote. I don't understand why anybody would have voted for Donald Trump. Can somebody make me understand why would y'all vote for a racist that's racist against black people and then try to find ways as to why he ain't racist? Like, some things you don't even have to think about because it's already been done. Donald Trump has proved over and over again who he is. But I can tell you this, I don't like Donald Trump. But one thing I do like about Donald Trump is he is who the hell he is. We don't got to figure it out. You see, because there's a lot of Donald Trumps out there, but they're not going to tell you that they're Donald Trump. So again, you're right. But what I can say, because I like to give people hope, okay? I do like to give people hope. Donald Trump is not going to be there forever. And hopefully these is his last 2 years. When somebody dies, there is no statute of limitation. So they can always be prosecuted. They can always be prosecuted. And again, this is a federal, to me, a federal hate crime.
We have to march in Cleveland, Mississippi for our brother Trey Reed, who was unalived September 15th, 2025, hanging from a tree on Delta State University campus in Cleveland, Mississippi, September 15th, 2025. So we need to march in Cleveland, Mississippi. We need to march in Senatobia, Mississippi. We need to march in Jackson, Mississippi, because what just happened in Jackson on Monday, Art? A black woman, 28, 29 years old, 𝐾𝐨𝐵 Fortune, was found hanging from a tree.
Wait a minute. I got to just read this comment because this is right here. It's just... I asked someone that same question about the orange clown, and their reasoning was they thought they were going to get a stimulus check. If you voted for Donald Trump because you thought you were going to get a stimulus check, you are a loser, and you need to find another way to make money. Because if you did get a stimulus check, like, what is it? I don't know, 4, 5, like, is it really going to change your life? Like, I mean, you got to be, this got to be a joke, because did people really vote for Donald Trump because they thought they were going to get a few dollars? Isn't your, being treated as a regular citizen, is that like more important to you, or just getting a few $100s? You know, you got to be a effed up person with a effed up mentality to have voted for somebody because you want to cash in on a few dollars. Those type of people I stay away from, okay? Because if I'm so desperate that I needed to vote for Donald Trump to get a few dollars, first of all, I need to fix my life so that I could just have a couple of extra dollars so that I'm not so damn hard up that I not only ruin my life, I ruin the life of my children and their children because I was so damn broke that I needed a few dollars. Now, I have heard people say, maybe think that, but I think it's crazy because, again, even if you did get a few dollars, in all honesty, with the price of everything that is, everything is going up, did you really get anything? I remember, I would go to the grocery store before Donald Trump got into office. And I remember with like $150, I would get a few things. $150 don't really get you much. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why people voted for Donald Trump. And honesty, I don't even go back and forth with him because at the end of the day, what I have found is it's a lot of poor ass people that voted for Donald Trump. And I just can't understand for the life of me. I know somebody specifically that is on what is that called? What's that stuff called? Rent assistance. Okay. Now, with the rent assistance, they're changing the rules, right? And then I asked this person, I said, so, you voted for Donald Trump. I said, they're changing the rules, with this rent assistance. I said, so what are you going to do? And the person says, well, I'll just find me a job. I said, so why the hell didn't you find a job? If it was jobs available or whatever, why didn't you find a job before? So, these Donald Trump people are crazy. They're kind of weird and off like him. So this person says, well, I'm not mad. I'll just find me a job. I said, so if you qualify for, your housing voucher, whatever it is you receive, I said, you feel okay that Donald Trump is now ending that. And now you have to find you another means of housing. So they weird. Them Donald Trump supporters are very weird people. I just don't go back and forth with them. I just don't.
Monday, Art, 4 days ago, a black woman was found hanging from a tree in Jackson, Mississippi. And check this out, Art. They said her corpse, her body, had been hanging from the tree for 3 to 4 days, Art. 3 to 4 days, her body was hanging. It gets worse, Art. It gets worse. They said they had to use a ladder.
Y'all really need to listen. Robin, I never said anything about a bag, honey. I said 150 would have gotten you more things. Y'all really need to start listening. I never said anything about a bag. That's all in your head.
They had to use a ladder to go up on the tree and get our sister Tasha down. And guess what the Mississippi State Medical Examiner ruled it, Art? Guess what she ruled it? The same thing she ruled 𝐟𝐸's death as suicide. Let me ask you a question, Art. How many black people hang themselves from trees? I don't know no black person who have ever taken their life by hanging themselves from a tree. In fact, it's almost impossible to hang yourself from a tree. In fact, black people have been hung from trees by white people for over 200 years. So you mean to tell me the very method that has been used to take our lives at the hands of white people, we are now taking the method ourselves, Art. We are now taking the method ourselves, Art, and we're going to hang ourselves with a noose the same way white people used to hang our ancestors? Who does that make sense to? That don't make no damn sense. So now all of a sudden, when black people want to take their life, we're going to go outside, get a noose, and hang ourselves suspended from a tree. That's nonsense. In the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, Art, every time a black person is found hanging in Mississippi, she wants to rule it a suicide. You know why, Art? If you rule it a suicide, you don't have to investigate. If you rule it a suicide,
if you rule it that they unalive themselves, you don't have to investigate. And guess what else you don't really need to do very much investigation on? If he drowned. Remember, they said Nolan drowned. He drowned. Nothing to see here. No foul play. He drowned.
Can close the case and you don't have to investigate. So Ben Crump and Al Sharpton need to turn up the heat under Sheriff Ledbetter's office. They need to turn up the heat under District Attorney Morav's office because they are dragging their feet. They are not taking this investigation seriously. It is too quiet. We don't know anything. Sister Christine don't know anything after 30 days. And Ben Crump and Al Sharpton need to go to the streets. Since you like to march every year in Washington, D.C., Al Sharpton, why don't you bring your behind to Mississippi and march? We need to march in Senatobia. We need to march in Cleveland, Mississippi. We need to march in Jackson for Sister 𝐾𝐨𝐺 Fortune. And we need to march in Ocean Springs for Brother Nolan Wells. And check this out, Art. The Attorney General said,
I just want to address one comment. Somebody said, I don't trust no president, none of them. I mean, you say you don't trust no president. I don't know exactly what that means. The president is not in office to change your life. The president is not in office to put money in your pocket. The president is not in office to really do much of anything for you individually. Now, some policies can affect you tax-wise. Some policies can affect you, like if you went to buy a house. But I don't really understand what that means when you say I don't trust no president. because you don't know them. You ain't supposed to trust them. What you're supposed to do is get out and vote and find you a candidate that you can support and that you can vote for. If you don't, you end up with Donald Trump. You see what I'm saying? Now it's a whole situation in Mississippi where a black young kid has lost his life and the feds are not stepping in because the people choose to vote for a Looney Tune Donald Trump. That's what it boils down to. So people need to really understand. So somebody say the president's supposed to make our lives better. Maybe he's supposed to make your life better. Okay. That's how you live your life. I'm not waiting on anybody in any government to make my life better. So I hold the keys to my life. So maybe that's how you think. So I'm right. You're wrong. You depend on the government to make your life better. I don't. I just vote for the whoever I feel that will contribute to society and maybe can contribute to the things that I want. I don't look for any president, any official to do anything for me. Nothing at all. And that's probably why you all struggle so much with voting, because you put your faith in folks that I don't. Not to say that I don't vote, because I do, but I do not say, okay, Donald Trump is in office. I know Donald Trump is going to give us a stimulus check, or Donald Trump is in office. I know he's going to sign that bill for this. Now, I look and hope that they do certain things, but I want you to understand, I don't wait on anybody to do anything for me. And maybe that's how you guys need to start living so that you can stop being so discouraged. Now, let me just kind of correct that. I feel like they should do certain things, but I also want you guys to understand sometimes they get in office and don't do what they said they're going to do. Like, I don't understand how people even gave Donald Trump a chance when he was the president before. I don't even understand how people believed anything that he had to say, but for some reason they did. Well, he played the hell out of the folks because he didn't do shit but steal the money, in which he's doing right now. So I don't know how you guys live your life. I need to be control of my own situation. I can't sit up and wait on no government to do shit for me. Okay. There's probably a lot of stuff that I probably can get for free that I don't even know about because I just don't operate my life like that. You know, I don't like to be let down. I don't like to be disappointed or discouraged. So I can't wait on anything. Now, if there's something that I can get that I find out about later, hey, but I don't live my life like that. I've never lived my life like that.
They're going to keep the toxicology and the autopsy report under seal. They're going to keep the toxicology and the autopsy under seal until the grand jury gets to see it. A grand jury is going to decide whether or not anybody's going to get charged with a crime, Art. And I have a big problem with that, Art. That's what happened with Carmelo Anthony. That's what happened with Carmelo Anthony. A grand jury proceeding is a relatively secret process, Art. You don't even know who's on the grand jury, Art. You don't even know who's a group of secret white people. A group of secret white people are going to decide if any of those 30 white kids on those 3 boats should be charged with a crime in the death of Nolan Wells. And we won't even know who they are, and we won't even know how they came to their decision, Art.
And this is why this is a problem, guys. People can be arrested and booked. Tell me why nobody was arrested and booked and put in separate rooms and talked to. Why did this never happen? Is this not the normal? I mean, if a crime is, has happened, or, somebody lost their life, why didn't that not happen? Why are we being told, oh, we're waiting on a grand jury? What y'all need to understand, go look up what a grand jury does. The grand jury may not even indict. You have to understand, you gotta understand that the governor has already come out and say, hey, Nolan didn't drown. All of that goes into what people decide to do as it relates to this grand jury that they claim. But I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I'm just being honest. I don't think that they're going to do anything because the district attorney has the power to do more, and she ain't doing shit. She isn't doing anything. So I have I don't feel that the grand jury is going to do anything.
We won't even know who the grand jury is, and we won't even know how the grand jury came to their decision. What is Ben Crump ready to do? What is Al Sharpton ready to do if the grand jury returns no indictments on anybody at all for the death of Nolan Wells? Will Benjamin Crump be ready to march then, Art? Will Al Sharpton be ready to march in Mississippi then? If the grand jury says this was an accidental drowning, case is closed, no indictments, what is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton going to do? Because right now, and I respect them both, Art, but right now, The way this case is being handled, they are too docile, they are too meek, they are too humble, and they are too soft. We need some street action. We need some street protests. We need some street marches. We need to raise up the temperature in Mississippi, art. That's what we need to do. This is the state that unalived Medgar Evers. This is the state that lynched Emmett Till. This is the state that took the life of Baby Cohen. This is the state that lynched Tasia Fortune. This is the state that lynched Trey Reed. This is Mississippi, the state that tried to lynch Fannie Lou Hamer. The state that tried to lynch Ida B. Wells. When are we going to wake up and smell the coffee? Now let's get to the infamous call, art, and I'm going to wrap this up. Let me get to the infamous call, and I'm going to wrap this up. They called the 𝐶𝐶O company at 4 o'clock. We already talked about the background noise that the audio engineer, our beautiful black sister, Jeanette Brantley, cleaned up. Sounds very suspicious, art. It sounds like they may have been in the act of unaliving Nolan Wells when they made the call. It sounds like they may have.
It sounds like they may have been in the act of unaliving Nolan Wells during that 𝐶𝐶O call. We done said this already. What are we doing here? Still no arrest. What is going on? Why have nobody been locked up? This is a cover-up, y'all. They doing this shit in our faces. They don't give a about us. What part do you not understand? The 𝐶𝐶O call is fake. No, the 𝐶𝐶O call is legit. It's real. But what y'all need to understand is they been had the damn 𝐶𝐶O call.
In the act of unaliving Nolan Wells when they made the call, art. Allegedly. And guess what, art? That would make perfect sense. You wanna know why? Because the call was bogus. Nothing was wrong with that shit. This is my allegations. This is my belief and my allegations, and I'm standing on it. Nothing was wrong with the boat, art, and I'm going to explain to you how we know this. Nothing was wrong with that boat. They made that call because they needed an alibi, art. They needed an alibi.
Ben Crump, somebody just put in the chat, I'm going to correct you. Ben Crump can't present shit to the grand jury. Stop saying that. You don't know what you're talking about. Y'all need to really go and read. I mean, a lot of this stuff is online. You can just read it. Ben Crump can't present shit to the grand jury. Do you not know what a grand jury is? Please go look it up. The grand jury is a secret process. We won't even know when the grand jury convenes. It's a secret, one-sided meeting. Ben Crump can't present shit to the grand jury. What are you talking about? Y'all got to stop making these lies up and just coming up with shit off the top of your head. Ben Crump won't know when anything is presented to the grand jury. What's wrong with y'all? Can y'all stop making this stuff up?
So if Nolan Wells, when Nolan's body was found, art, if they were able to determine the time of death, when Nolan's body was found, and if they were able to determine the time of death, they say, wait a minute, Nolan was unalived at 4 o'clock. Guess what, art? They could say our boat was sinking at 4 o'clock and we was on the phone with 𝐶𝐶O. The phone call was an alibi, art. The phone call was a decoy. The phone call was a bait and switch. There was nothing wrong with that boat, art. So listen, we know that Mississippi is going to find all the audio engineers they can find, art. We know that Mississippi is going to find all the audio engineers that they can find, art, to try to say that the background noise cannot be corroborated or verified. You know they're going to say that. They're going to say we can't use the background noise. There's too much going on. We don't care what Sister Jeanette Brantley had to say. We don't care what y'all conspiracy theorists got to say. We had our own FBI audio engineers listen to it, and they can't make out the conversation. I believe it says what Sister Jeanette Brantley says it says. I believe it, art. It makes perfect sense. They called at the time that they were unaliving him to have an alibi and an excuse. But guess what, art? Even if they...
Wait a minute. Didn't we already say that we believed from the call that it was some kind of alibi? And then to hear him say it, and just to hear other people's perspectives, y'all, we was on the money. And if we were on the money, us lay people, you think they didn't know this already? It was an alibi. They were asked, do you want us to send the, I can't remember. It's like the state boat people, who, whatever they're called. I can't remember. They were asked this on the call. No, don't send them. That was an alibi. That was a setup from the beginning. If y'all remember when we listened to the call, we like, well, we hear what's going on, but we don't understand. Yeah, the Coast Guard. Thank you. The Coast Guard. Should we send the Coast Guard? We can send the Coast Guard. No. Don't send the Coast Guard. You're sinking, but you don't want them to send the Coast Guard who can be there like this? That don't make no sense. Don't send the Coast Guard, but you're sinking. That don't make no sense.
Throw out the background noise. I believe we still have probable cause to arrest all 30 of those white kids. And I'm going to tell you why, art. Let's listen to the conversation, art. Let's listen to the conversation. He calls the operator on 𝐶𝐶O. The operator says, how can I help you? And I'm paraphrasing. He says, our boat is sinking and we need a tow. She says, how much water are you in? He says we're in 17 feet of water. No, no, no. We in 31 feet of water. Art, there's a big difference between 17 and 31. There's a big difference between 17 and 31. Why don't you know if you are in roughly 17 feet of water? And why don't you know if you are in roughly 31 feet of water? You are on the boat all the time. This is what they do, Art. They boat all the time. They go to Horn Island all the time. Why don't you know if you're in 17 foot of water or 31 foot of water? 31 foot of water. But Art, it gets better than this, Art. It gets better. The CETO operator, Art, says, do you want me to call the Coast Guard? Do you want me to call the Coast Guard? Guess what he said? We don't need the Coast Guard. Art, if your boat is sinking, do you care who comes to rescue you? If your boat is sinking, if I'm sinking in 31 feet of water, you can call the Coast Guard, you can call the aliens, you can call the Snow Bunny boat, you can call whoever you want to call if my boat is.
He said the Snow Bunny boat. But I mean, listen, who cares who comes? Just come and get me. Why are you sinking, but you say don't send the Coast Guard? The Coast Guard is there within minutes. You know, they got the best boats, the best equipment. No. You don't want the Coast Guard to come? Do y'all remember on the call, she said, well, is anybody alive? Is anybody alive on the boat? What?
It's sinking. He told the operator, we don't need the Coast Guard. Who does that, Art? Who says we don't need the Coast Guard if we sinking? So she says, okay. She says, how many adults are on the boat? Pay attention to this, Art. We caught him in another lie. Listen to this. She says, how many adults are on the boat? He said, quote, there are no adults on the boat. He lied, Art. Second lie. First lie, he said, Nolan said, I'm staying behind to hang out with Katie. Y'all can leave me. Katie said, Nolan told her, I'm headed back to the boat because my friend's about to leave. That was lie number one. That was lie number one. You lied and said, Nolan said he's going to stay behind with Katie. That was a lie. Lie number two, the CETO operator asked you, how many adults are on the boat? He said, there are no adults on the boat, Art. Why did he lie? Why did he lie? She said, how many people on the boat? He said, everybody on the boat is under 21. Art, she said, that was not my question. Art, she begged him to tell her how many people are on the boat. She said, that's not my question. How many people are on the boat? She said, is anybody breathing on the boat? He said, a lot of people breathing on the boat. She said, is there anybody living on the boat? He said, yes, people are alive on the boat. Art, I would like to investigate her. She didn't do no crime. I want to know what made that operator say, is anybody breathing on the boat? What made her say, is anybody alive on the boat? Art, what?
Is anybody breathing on the boat? Is anybody alive? What was those questions all about? You calling to get your boat towed, but on the other end, they're saying, well, is anybody alive? And this is what I believe. I believe it was adults on the boat because the question is, that's not what she asked him. But you see how he turned it around to say there's no adults on the boat. But are they not considered adults if you're 18 or older? So you see how he right away said, there's no adults on the boat. Everybody is under the age of 21. So is under, what does that even mean? I'm confused. He says, there's no adults on the boat. Everybody is under the age of 21. I didn't understand that. It seemed like he was trying to hide something.
Did she hear in the background? What did that operator hear in the background to make her ask him, is anybody breathing on the boat? That don't sound like a regular question. And then she said, is anybody living on the boat? It's almost like she could feel something was going on. I would love to know if those were standard questions, Art. I would love to know if those were standard questions or if she had a hunch that something fishy was going on. Now check this out, Art. She asked him a third or fourth time. He would not answer the question, Art. He would not answer the question. How many people are on the boat? Guess what he said, Art? Like 7. Like 7. Art, the boat only holds 8. They went out there that morning with 8. 7 Caucasians and Nolan. 7 Caucasians and Nolan. Art, they left with 7, right? When she said how many people on the boat, Art, why did he say like 7? Why didn't he say 7? It's only 7 people. Why couldn't he say 7? Why did he say like 7? You know why he said like 7, Art? Because he didn't know if Nolan was still alive or not. He didn't know if Nolan was still alive or not. So let me say like 7 in case he survives. Because Art, if you call me up and say, Dr. Umar, how many people at the basketball?
Exactly. Like 7. What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? Like? Exactly how Dr. Umar explained it. Listen, I'm going to say like 7. So you also have to understand is these are young adults and this is how they think. We've all been young adults. We've all, we haven't did these sort of a thing, you know, in terms of being around somebody that mysteriously died. But to say like 7, you are hiding something because what the hell does like 7 even mean?
I can't count them all. Art, I'm going to say like 100. It's like 100. Because I don't know. It could be a little less than 100. It could be a little more than 100. I'm going to say it's like 100. But Art, if there's only 7 people on the boat, I don't need to say like 7. I can just say 7. He didn't want to give her a direct answer. Why didn't he want to give her a direct answer, Art? Because he knows it should have been 8 people on that boat. He knows it should have been 8 people on that boat. So he said like 7 because he didn't want to say 7 so nobody can ask him where the hell was Nolan. Nolan's life was taken between 3:30 and 4:30 and they know exactly how and who. They know exactly how and who, Art. And they took the phone and the keys to get rid of any evidence. They took the phone and the keys to get rid of any evidence. And if Sister Christine and Sister Tashima didn't go to that girl's house to get that phone, they would discard it, Art. They were going to discard the keys and the phone and act like they never even had them either. Now, I'm going to give you this one piece, Art, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to give you this one piece, Art, and I'm going to leave it alone. As I said, I'm very disappointed in the fact that Sheriff Ledbetter and District Attorney Morath are not investigating all 30 of those children. I'm disappointed that all 3 boats were not treated like a crime scene. Now, my primary theory, they unalived him on the boat, threw him over to make it look like a drowning. They unalived him on the boat or on land before they took off, threw him in the water to make it look like a...
Now listen to this part. I want you guys to listen to what he says after he says he believes they unalived him and threw him overboard. Listen to this piece.
Drowning. But I'm gonna say this to you, Art. I have another theory as well. I got 2 theories. That's my first theory. Let me give you my second theory and we're done on this. There's a strong chance, Art, that after they unalived Nolan, they held onto the body overnight and dumped it the next day, Art. Or they took the body to one of the other islands around Horn Island and dumped the body. And let me tell you why I believe this, Art. Let's go back to Emmett Till. Let's go to Emmett Till, Art. Emmett Till was unalived on August 28th. They bob wired Emmett Till to a 75-pound cotton gin, 1955. August 28th, 1955, Emmett Till was unalived, and they bob wired him to a 75-pound cotton gin and threw him in the Tallahatchie River. The Tallahatchie River, Art, is a freshwater river. Horn Island is on the Gulf of Mexico. It's salt water. Salt water is rougher and more active and more buoyant than freshwater, Art. Follow me on this. Emmett Till got thrown in the Tallahatchie, bob wired to a 75-pound cotton gin, Art, and his body made it up to the surface on August the 31st. Even though he was tied to a 75-pound cotton gin in the river, his body floated up to the surface in 3 days, Art. Emmett Till was 14. Nolan Wells is 18. If Nolan Wells was unalived and dumped immediately on July 4th, Art, we should have saw his body on July 5th. If Emmett Till's body can make it to the top in 3 days, tied to a cotton gin, Art, why did Nolan Wells' body only surface the morning of July 6th? I think...
Why did Nolan Wells, and these are questions that everybody has been asking. If Nolan Wells drowned on the 4th, why would his body show up 2 days later? That makes no sense. The story that they claimed that Nolan Wells was so drunk, how was he drunk when the coach had just saw him an hour or so before and he wasn't drunk? Y'all do know that once you drink the alcohol, it does take time. So, to get in your system, and then, eventually you're drunk. So if he wasn't drunk at 3 o'clock, 3:30, how the hell did he get so drunk before the time that they left? Because remember, one person said, I think he said the last time I saw him was at 3 o'clock. And then he says, but at 4:30 or 4 o'clock, Bart was arguing with him to get on a boat. It's just, the stories just don't make no sense. But they say, or it's been said, that he was so drunk. But how? How could he have gotten drunk in such a short period of time? Because the coach told the mother that he wasn't drunk. They had conversations about, whatever he was doing with his life. But somehow they say he was drunk, as if that even matters.
It is a strong possibility they held onto his body, Art, because they were afraid that if they dumped it immediately, it would surface too soon. If they dumped Nolan's body too soon, it would have surfaced before they were ready. That body could have floated back, Art, before they made it back home. They all go to jail. They could have held onto his body, Art, and dumped it on July 5th or dumped it the morning of July 6th. Because according to science, Art, Nolan's body should not have surfaced for 3 days. Or according to what happened to Emmett Till, it should have surfaced within a day. The fact that it took Nolan Wells' body 41 hours before we saw it, I think that body might have gotten dumped, Art. I think they might have held onto Nolan Wells' body and dumped it a day or two later. And that's why the other 2 boats are important to the investigation, Art. How do we know Nolan wasn't unalived on one boat and held on the second boat? How do we know that? How do we...
This is so interesting because these are all things that we said. We said, listen, what about the other boats? We later found out that there were more boats. Y'all, they tried to keep that part from us, that there were more boats. How do you, conduct an investigation without conducting an investigation on everything that was affiliated with Nolan at that time? If he went with 30 people, we at least got to look at those 30 people. Okay. We at least got to look at their boats because they went together. None of this was done. Why do y'all think none of this was done? If it was a mistake, there's an awful lot of mistakes. Then they throw Ben Crump under the bus and say, oh, we asked Ben Crump if he wants us to search the boats and he says no. How the hell does Ben Crump give you authority to search somebody else's property? Just lies after lies after lies.
A second boat didn't take Nolan Wells' corpse to one of them other islands and then the body floated back, Art. Why are we not investigating all 3 boats and all 30 white children? Art, I'm going to tell you like this. For that boy to not tell that CETO operator, how many people was on that boat? And she asked him 3 times, and the fact he lied and said there was no adults, and then he still didn't answer her question and said everybody under 21, and she had to repeatedly say that was not my question. Why are you unwilling to tell her it's only 7 people and not 8 people? Last thing I'm gonna say, Art, shout out to Tyler Perry, Terrell Owens, Colin Kaepernick for helping to pay for the funerals, autopsy, as well as reward money for information leading to an arrest. But guess what, Art? That reward money needs to be more than $175,000. Mississippi is the poorest state in America. 1 in 4 people live in poverty. We need that reward money, Art, to go up to $1 million. I need LeBron James, Rihanna, Tiger Woods, Venus, Serena, Kanye. Get that reward money up to $1 million, Art. We need the reward money up to $1 million so those white folks will start talking. $175,000, Art, is not enough money. We need $1 million. Guess how they found the 3 civil rights workers in Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1964, Art? Remember the Ku Klux Klan murdered those 3 workers? Cheney, Goodman, and Swerner, Mississippi burning? Mississippi burning? Guess how they found out? An undercover FBI agent tipped off the FBI to where those 3 bodies were buried. Do the FBI have any undercover officers operating in this case? Does the state of Mississippi Bureau of Investigation have any undercover officers operating in this case? We need some undercover agents to weave into the lives of these young people and find out exactly what happened to Nolan Wells. And that's why Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton need to demand a federal takeover of this investigation immediately.
That was really good, y'all. That was very, very good. Oh boy, what is this? So that was really good. I'm glad I watched that. What the hell came on after? So it was great. That was an awesome watch. I echo everything he said. Very, very good. So thank y'all for telling me about that. Like I said, I started watching it, but I ended up falling asleep. I think I had stopped, and honestly, I must have been really tired because I didn't even remember what I saw when I had started watching it again. So this was great. This was awesome. And we're just going to keep talking about this Nolan Wells case. Of course, you guys saw where they have now, which is very interesting. We'll talk about this later, that they claim, or we don't care what they claim. We don't give a damn what they say. At least over here, we don't. But they don't want people to continue to talk about this Nolan Wells case, but yet they continue to go online and have videos. The latest is they went back to Horn Island. It's giving weird. It's giving, I don't know what they're trying to do, but everything they're doing, every move they make is just sinking them deeper into a hole, okay? They look guilty. They seem guilty. I believe that they are guilty, like I've said over and over again, and I'm never changing it, okay? They just don't move like innocent people move. So let me read some of y'all's chats, super chats here. Okay, we got J Love 4720. Thank you for the 200 jewels. Marquetta Smith, thank you for the 350 jewels. We got Diva, thank you for the 10 jewels. I appreciate it. Oh, and Warren is a member. Warren Hawkins, welcome. We got African Diamond 8006. Thank you for the 1,000 jewels. We got TYM 1290. Thank you for the 10 jewels. Miss Sweet Tooth, thank you for the 200 jewels. I appreciate you. Feminine Melon, I feel between 4 p.m. and 4:30 that Nolan was unalive because Coach talked to him about how good he was and his future. Maybe Bart also football player. All right, we got Lisa and Nets. Thank you for the 200 jewels. We got Feminine Melon again. Oh, wait a minute. Let me read. Okay, you say continue. Let me read it together. I feel between 4 p.m. and 3:30 that Nolan was unalive because Coach talked to him about how good he was and his future. Maybe Bart, also football player, got jealous and they got into it when Nolan got on the boat. Trayston said slick-ish and Bart unalive Nolan, hence the CASHAPP call. You know, Trayston did admit that he said something slick or whatever he said, but I don't know what it was. D Woods, thank you for the 440 jewels. Feminine Melanist, back again. If nothing was wrong, we'd have the autopsy. Facts. Big facts. And also denying the family the opportunity to get a second autopsy. Just, Feminine Melon. And they still haven't released his body parts. Exactly, for the second one. We got 440 jewels. Azota. Hallelujah. Thank you for the 200 jewels. We got Gerald Franklin. Thank you for the 200 jewels. Love Seen Hard. Thank you for the 440 jewels. We got Terry Henderson. Thank you for the 250 jewels. Chris Clark. Thank you for the 350 jewels. Feminine Melon back again. Nolan's dad even walked the island exactly looking for him. It was, yes, and the body wasn't there. My point exactly. Azota, I did give you the email already, so you should have that. Abishqua, thank you for the 440 jewels. Feminine Melon back again. He can analyze this case, yet not open any school. Ooh, Deborah Booker, thank you for the 499. I never thought I would see anything like this in my lifetime. This is unbelievable. Yes, the whole state is covering up this crime. Yeah, and it's unbelievable. It's I don't even have words. Like it's sad. I mean, I don't even have words. Like I don't even know what to say. It's beyond what I can even comprehend. So I'm with you, Deborah. Terry Henderson, thank you for the 250 jewels. Again, Terry, you gave 500 jewels, 250 and 250. Thank you, Feminine Melon back again. He was asked when last he saw Nolan. She nudged him right as he was about to answer, and her face lost expression. So I don't know. I can see it both ways. You talking about Javon's mother. Feminine Melon. Tow was canceled by the granddad mid-sea tow call. Right. Exactly. That don't make a lot of sense. Seems like it's a bunch of adults involved. Lady PFS. Tow has confirmed the call is 100% real. You know what, Lady PFS? They didn't have to confirm it with me that it was real. It's on their website. They didn't need to confirm that it was real. So that's why I kept telling you all that it was real. That was a lie. The call is real. Lady PFS, if the call is fake and it's on their website, then they need to sue them, okay? And stop trying to say they're going to sue content creators for talking about the case, because I'm going to only sue their ass right back, okay? And then I need to get my lawyer fees as well as a whole bunch of other shit, okay? So why are they trying to intimidate people, but yet they lie with their lying ass lawyer saying that the call is fake? The call is not fake. That's why I've been saying the whole time. I didn't need them to confirm it. It's a real call. So then, you're talking, then the TV stations are putting out fake images. All these people do is lie. That's one thing they do very well, is lie and become a victim in a situation that they created. But we already knew that. I want to see how they'll get out of that. So they're getting out of it by this, what do I want to call it? This cover up. I mean, they're not doing anything. The people who are in charge to do the things that they're supposed to be doing, they're not doing it. Gus McGrind, thank you for the $1,000. I said $1,000. Thank you for the 1,000 jewels. Okay, we got Gina Stone. Thank you for the 440 jewels, and then another 200 jewels. Gina Stone. Oh, Gina Stone, and then another 30 jewels. Thank you. Feminine Melon. But they unknowingly gave their times to his parents July 4th night. If they individually thought to cover, seems they would have bumped heads in time. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Feminine Melon. Again, stop playing and hit the like button. It's free. Please hit the like button, guys. I mean, it's easy. We got MSB 6601. Thank you for the 10 jewels. Feminine Melon again. Shaking my head. Had to track his phone and truck different days. Feminine Melon again. Thank you for the $2. It's a reason mom sent Javon's mom to the door. Well, she said that she wasn't in a good mental headspace. So she probably would have dragged them. And that's probably was the right thing to do. Because imagine It's too much. She did right. As a matter of fact, I don't know. I don't know if she was actually there or in the car. I don't know. But she did say that she wasn't in the right headspace. Blessed and tested. Thank you for the 2 jewels. Soldier 4, God 47. Thank you for the 100 jewels. Royal. Thank you for the 2 jewels. Royal and what does that say? Royal and Thai. Okay, thank you for the 2 jewels and then the 10 jewels. We got Feminine Melon again. Had Nolan returned with his group of white guys and one white guy was unalive on a different boat, Nolan would have been detained immediately. Child, we know it. We know that. Weakest link. Thank you for the $2 melanin, feminine melanin. Weakest link. 2,500 check for 4 years of terror. Listen, I wouldn't give a damn what checks Donald Trump was giving out. I was never voting for him. I don't care about no checks. We're living in a messed up. I mean, everything right now is people talking about what they can't afford. Imagine what you can't afford coupled with all of this other shit we're dealing with. You know, yeah, I just couldn't. I wasn't going to ever be able to do it. Clara Jones, 6006. Lakeysha, you are right. And Wyatt's grandfather was instructing Wyatt what to say. He was instructing him what to say. He definitely was there. And the authorities to his driver's license info. Well, if you listen to the call, I mean, it's clear. I mean, you've all talked to your kids on the phone or whoever on the phone, and you can, like, you know, you can hear them and you're saying, okay, say this. That's what it sounded like to me. He didn't know what to say. Somebody was telling him he wasn't saying it fast enough. And that's why we heard silence. And she was like asking him the same questions because he's listening to her. He's listening to whoever he's talking to. It was a lot. Of course. Everybody needs to be arrested. Feminine Melon, he knew because they told Javon they're at their limit. Yep. Thank you guys for your support. I really, really appreciate it. Y'all let me know if y'all like this structure, how I kind of read everything at the end. I just try to like get through the show and then, you know, at the end, I'll read that. Because otherwise, it's like I'm just stopping and reading and stopping and reading. I just rather do it all at once versus, you know, but y'all let me know what y'all, you know, if y'all like that or y'all want me to switch it up. So, yeah, they want this to blow over as if it never happened. Someone says, Angela Hightower 4125 said, if you listen carefully, somebody in the background says 6. You know, somebody actually sent me another version of the call, but I'm gonna always be honest. I'm gonna probably listen to it again because I didn't hear what they heard. So I can't just be making up shit now. The person who sent me a different audio was telling me what they heard. I didn't hear it. So I'm gonna try to listen again and see. If not, I'm not even gonna bring the audio to you all because I feel like the audio, we already know what it says. So I'm not really I'm not really trying to hear anything else, especially trying to hear stuff that I really don't hear. We got Cindaya. I hope I said that right. Cindaya. They held on to the body for facial recognition for the phone. Y'all been saying that. A lot of different people been saying that. A lot of people. Hey, I believe it. I mean, one thing I don't believe is shit that these folks say. And I'll say it again. Nolan Wells, I believe Nolan Wells was unalived intentionally. I do believe that it was a hate crime. And I also believe that the Mississippi officials know what happened to Nolan. I feel like this is the reason that they're moving the way that they're moving. Of course, they told us that it was a drowning, but yet you're presenting something to the grand jury. Make it make sense. What the hell do you present to a grand jury if you say Nolan Wells drowned. Now, guys, as you leave here, make sure you like the video. Wait a minute, I got one more super chat. Essential Queen 6345, thank you for the $15. Why would Grandpa cancel the 𝐶𝐶𝐾𝐿 if the boat was taken on water? Never made sense. Well, I think we figured it out. You know, it didn't make sense. But if you were calling to say your boat was sinking as an alibi, then it makes sense, because it was never that they actually needed help. It was so that they can say that they were having problems with the boat. That's it. They didn't need anything, because when I listened to it, I said, why do I feel like they didn't really need help? Because they didn't. They didn't need help. Feminine Melon again with another $5. I was trying to say that they knew how many on the boat for 𝐶𝐶𝐾𝐿 because they told Javon they were at capacity and had to ride. See, I think I missed that. I think I missed that. So you're saying that they had 8? Because he said he thinks 7. So what are you saying was actually on the boat? And I guess I must have missed that as well. I didn't know that Javon was told that they were at capacity, which is interesting that they didn't want Javon on that boat. I didn't know that. See, I got to go back and where can I find that at? Because I must have missed that. It's been so much information. I'm sure I missed a few things, but I didn't. I guess I missed that. I totally missed that. Someone else is saying that they did tell Javon that they were at capacity. I got to go and find that, because I didn't realize that I didn't realize that Javon was going to ride with them. I must have missed that. But how interesting that they told Javon that they were at capacity. It leads you to believe something, you know. Really? I don't know, guys. This is, you know, this is very fishy. And again, I don't believe that Nolan Wells drowned. I definitely believe that he was unalived. And I cannot wait until somebody is held accountable for his death. And make sure on you guys' way out, you like the video if you have not. And I will catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening. Go on. Yes, I'm typing it all down.
Kia, clear, spilling tea, no fear. They talk loud, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. I don't lies right here. Spilling tea, no fear. I'm still here. Da 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 no. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. They talk loud, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Spilling tea, no sugar, no fear. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here. Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to Lakeysha Keysha, my dear. Hey. I'm still here, no fear, but I'm still here. Lakeysha Keysha, say it clear. Real talk lives right here.
Stretch words like
Tea.
tea, no sugar, no fear. Make sure you subscribe to the Lakeysha Keysha channel.